Man, you can barely see my TV. I don't know why. I don't know why it won't, hardly any of it's showing up. I don't know if it's just should be up higher or what. But I mean, I don't know what to do. Put a book there to raise it up. I mean, I want my viewers to be able to see the TV, but for some reason you can't hardly see it at all. I mean, I don't understand why it's like that. I mean, I don't know how to fix it.
The ancient Greeks had 4 words for love. The most admirable was called agape, love as an action. For 175 years, New York Life has been helping people act on their love, so they can look back or look ahead and say, "We got it right. We did good."
New movies and top hits now at Redbox. Wonder Woman 1984. From the creators of Bridesmaids, Barb and star Rivers of Mar. And the theatrical home release of Chaos Walking. Rent new movies at the kiosk and on demand. From action and suspense to comedy and drama, Redbox has something for everyone. Visit redbox.com for all the ways to watch.
Okay, this is on True Crime Justice Network. Finally, they changed it from Justice Network to True Crime on Streamium because it was probably at least 8 or 9 months. So they put like 8 episodes of Rescue 911 on True Crime Network every Saturday. So it's like a marathon, Rescue 911 marathon. Like from 5 a.m. till like 9 a.m. in the morning. Central Time Zone. Mr. Shapiro, step out of the car, please.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911.
WFAA 8.3 Dallas, Texas.
A preschool nightmare.
There's blood all over her face and her legs was just limp.
A little girl crushed under a bus
And I kept calling her name, and she never responded.
becomes a medical team's biggest challenge. Then,
My son never saw him in such pain.
two boys playing with matches get badly burned.
You take care of your kids, pain's expected. Somebody said you can't.
On Rescue 911.
Perhaps the deepest expression of love for our children lies in the actions we take to protect them and help keep them safe. I'm William Shatner. Tonight on a special episode of Rescue 911 to promote child safety, we are reminded that the youthful innocence that makes a child's life so precious and full of possibilities also places them at much greater risk. We begin on the afternoon of November 4th, 1991 in Blumpville, Tennessee, as a group of kids were on their way home from school. 8-year-old Courtney Maples and her little sister Whitney rode the same school bus every day.
I was sitting with Jennifer Cole, and Whitney was sitting with Becky Ford. Whitney had a picture, and I put it up to my eye and I looked through it, and I just saw like a black outline of a turkey drawn. She said that she had to get it to her mom, so I figured it was real special. When Whitney was walking up to the house, the turkey blew out of her head. We heard a thump, and I saw her laying on the ground.
When we continue,
It's the most terrifying feeling you could ever imagine. And I kept calling her name, and she never responded at all. She just lay there.
Keeping your floors clean requires different tools for different kinds of messes. Here's mine. You'll get a money-back guarantee,
Rack the plug and rack it.
complete selection of this station.
but she was run over by the vehicle in front of her house.
Phone distracted. Be aware and be safe.
When 5-year-old Whitney Maples chased after a picture that fell under a school bus, she was run over by the vehicle in front of her house. Her sister Courtney's screams for help were heard inside by her mother Tammy.
When I opened the door, I saw Whitney laying in the road. It's the most terrifying feeling you could ever imagine, to see your child laying out there like that. And I kept calling her name, and she never responded at all. She just lay there.
I've been a bus driver for 38 years, the same route. I didn't know what to think when I saw what had happened.
I was scared because Whitney was so small and the bus was so big.
What's your emergency? Okay, I got hit by a bus. Did you fit? There's going to be help on the way.
School bus versus pedestrian. Pedestrian would be a 5-year-old child.
I thought she was dead because there was blood all over her face and her legs was just limp. And I figured that every bone in her body was broke because she was so small. It just scared me half to death. Okay, lay still. Lay still, honey. Just lay still.
I couldn't even imagine living my life without one of my children. You think that you're about as deep as your love can get, and then when something like this happens, you realize that there's a bottomless pit that you've never even hit yet.
Within 3 minutes of the call, Sullivan County EMS units arrived on the scene, including EMT Jim Perry.
When I first heard from somebody that she had been run over by a 7-ton school bus, I just thought, there's no way. How could she still be alive and be run over by a full-size school bus?
Paramedic Stacy May tried to comfort 5-year-old Whitney.
We were both affected very much by this little girl. It was hard for me because I wanted to do more and more for her, but there was only so much that we could do.
When we came out of the ambulance, I picked her tennis shoes up. And I was still carrying her tennis shoes with me. That was the last thing of her I had to hold on to.
Whitney was admitted to Holston Valley Hospital, where a trauma team was awaiting her arrival, including respiratory therapist Sherry Daly.
When they asked her what her name was, she said that her name was Whitney Maples. And that's when I turned to look at the other therapist that was with me, and I told her, I know this little girl. She's in my daughter's class. And that's when I realized it could be my child in that position.
Still talking.
Just straight.
Not that we can tell, let's say just on the forehead.
Most of the time when we transfer a patient over to a facility like this, we back out of the way and let them do their job on her. But Whitney was still holding on to Jim's hand, so we kind of stayed in there with her.
With the extent of Whitney's injuries, we didn't know if she would live through surgery. She was crushed. It was just that simple.
Oh man, that's terrible. Look at that. Look how far those pelvis is spread apart. I think she's getting more.
Whitney's condition was critical. Doctors informed her parents that she would have to be transferred to a trauma center better equipped to handle her injuries.
I don't cry much for anything, but, I felt like I couldn't do a thing in the world for her. And at that point, I broke down.
When parents come in, to me that's the hard part, because you see all the pain that's in their eyes and their hearts. I think we all kind of teared up together.
Whitney's parents were not allowed to accompany her on the flight.
I kept asking her, why won't you let me go? And I kept thinking, she won't be there when I get there. If I'm with her, maybe I could hold on to her a little bit longer.
She was taken by Lifestar helicopter 120 miles to the University of Tennessee Hospital, while her parents followed by car.
And I said, Lord, just let her survive. We can handle anything else. That's all I want is for her to live.
Orthopedic surgeon Richard Smith was part of the team that worked to rebuild Whitney's pelvis.
The problem with a 5-year-old patient is finding parts that will fit her. The pins and the systems we have are designed for adults. Let's get a pretty long, solid bar to put across there. And I basically had the operating room personnel open up everything we owned and laid them all out there until I found one that fit her. Good. Okay.
How is she? She's doing okay. She's stable right now.
It's awful to see your child that way. So that you send them off to school and they're a perfect little girl. And the next time you see them, you just wonder if they'll ever be the same again.
Ready, set, go. Run hard. Go, 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 run, 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 run.
5-year-old Whitney Maples was hospitalized for almost 3 weeks and underwent numerous operations.
Ready, set, go. Fast as you can. Go, Whitney.
In the 9 months since the accident, she has undergone physical therapy to learn to walk again and has made an amazing recovery.
Her outlook is very good considering what she had happen to her. She kind of waddles side to side a little bit, but overall I think it looks great.
You did good.
Good job, okay.
It's funny to see these doctors just look at this child and say, we just can't believe that she's healed this well. They just look at her in amazement.
There you go, good job. Down on the closet that time.
As she came by our station, it was just great. When she came running through the door and I seen her, it was just a great feeling. That told me why I went to school for all these years and worked all these hours. Whitney was the reason.
It makes me ecstatically happy to see her.
She's riding her bike after the accident.
It's a miracle. And every day I look at her and I just appreciate her a little more.
I'm thrilled about Whitney. It makes me just feel good knowing that she's going to be okay. Did you see that?
I used to hope it because she wasn't home to play Barbies with me, that you wouldn't want to have her for a sister. She's so mean.
Now they're by the water.
And
her family.
I am never going up in front of a bus again. Because you'll get run over.
Next.
There was washing dishes, and I knew they were playing out in the backyard. I mean, they did that all the time.
Stuffed up? Stop suffering with My Pure Mist, the only handheld ultra-pure steam inhaler. My Pure Mist is
26 today.
call 1-800.
Children are never too young to start learning life-saving techniques. You never know that a child might be the only one around at the moment of crisis. That moment came for 10-year-old Jacob Walsh in a quiet residential neighborhood of Pasadena, Texas, on October 30th, 1988. David Parker will never forget that Sunday morning.
He looked at me and said, Daddy, it's just a dream. I said, I wish it was.
The Parkers and the Walshes have lived next door to each other for years. On this day, like so many others, their sons were playing together in the backyard of David and Kathy Parker's house.
I was just kind of walking around the house, drinking my coffee. He and Jacob and Kel were in my backyard on the patio playing. They were playing with the volcano.
Now rescue
Her
911
8-year-old son
on
Caleb's model volcano had been built with the help of his father as a science project.
They pour baking soda in the top of it, and they're supposed to see how it erupts. Next thing I knew, I saw them jumping the fence because Jacob lives next door.
They wanted to use Jacob Walsh's skateboard ramp as a platform for the volcano.
We just got it and brought it over to my backyard. Just set it on the middle of the ramp.
Neither boy was allowed to use matches.
We got a match and just put a match in there and burn leaves. It just burned.
The two boys kept trying to get a fire started in the volcano using matches and leaves. While Jacob's grandmother worked just inside the house.
I was washing dishes, and I knew they were playing out in the backyard. I mean, they did that all the time.
Okay, here we go. Stand back.
I called for Terry as I went out the back door.
I just chased after him and rolled over on the ground.
I just stood there. I couldn't move.
When I was in kindergarten, I remember the stop, drop, and roll. Then he wouldn't roll over, so I just rolled him over. Why I wouldn't have rolled him over, he might have died.
I heard some screaming. He wasn't on fire anymore. And he was standing there telling me, Terry, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I told Jake, I said, run get David.
Jacob ran next door to get Cale's father, David.
He couldn't even speak. He was so loud. My son, I never saw him in such pain in my life, and I felt so helpless. I couldn't do nothing for him, really.
He was terrified. And a mother knows their child's cry. It was very different.
Kathy's call for help came in at 9:45 a.m.
911, please state your emergency.
I said, my son is burnt. He's in pain. I need an ambulance. Hurry up. Get here now. That's when they told me to put the water on him, the cold towels.
I just try to comfort him. I mean, usually you take care of your kids' pains and stuff, but something like that you can't.
Pasadena police officers were on the scene within 3 minutes.
What happened? My heart was going 90 miles an hour. I just didn't want him to be in pain. When he was quiet, I calmed down. But then when he started reacting, I reacted with him.
Paramedics James Kelton and Mark Donovan arrived less than 2 minutes later.
I think when paramedics and EMTs deal with children, everybody gets a little nervous, a little uptight. You usually deal with adults who can tell you what's wrong and how they're feeling, but when you get children, they're scared and they just want to be with mom or dad.
I did notice the unique smell of burned flesh, which if you've never smelled burnt flesh before, it is a very unique scent that you will not soon forget. Burns were concentrated on his legs, and I believe his left arm and his left ear, and a portion of his neck. It just looked like somebody come and just peeled away a piece of skin, and just exposing what was left underneath him.
Yeah.
We basically made a sandwich out of him using what we call sterile burn sheets. Doused it down completely with sterile water. We felt that that would best serve reducing the pain and put out any fire that may be remaining burning in the skin tissue itself.
When I would pour the water on Kale's legs, he was all right for approximately a second to a minute. And then he would just start screaming. I begged them to give him something for pain, and they said that they couldn't.
Kale was rushed to a nearby parking lot where a special helicopter landing zone had been set up.
I was scared. I thought it was my fault because I put gasoline in and I burned him.
This one life flight nurse, she hugged me. She said, "We'll take good care of him." And they just said that there's no room on the helicopter for me. I felt like dying. I was thinking he's probably terrified. I mean, I felt worse not being with him than I did being with him and not being able to help him.
The flight to Herman Hospital in Houston took less than 12 minutes.
There is no doubt that burn injury is the most devastating type of injury that the human body can sustain.
Dr. Donald Parks, a leading burn expert, was waiting to treat Kale.
Okay, y'all, this is a 9-year-old. He was in a gasoline explosion.
I recall that Kale coped very well. He was panicky, but he did cooperate in all our requests.
Kale, how old are you, Kale?
I noted that he had extensive burns, including burns to his ear, to his back, both arms, and very deep burns to both legs. Many of the burns on his legs were third degree, destroying all layers of skin. The burns were subsequently cleaned to attempt to prevent contamination of the burn wound, which ultimately could lead to an infection.
He was wrapped from head to toe in bandages. He looked like a mummy. He had tubes everywhere. And he looked up at me and his dad. He said, "Am I going to be in trouble for this?" Well, at that point, I had to walk out of the room.
You think kids know better. And I know Cal knew better, I know Jacob knew better, but they think they got things under control, I guess. I think, oh, well, we know it's bad to do this, but it, you know, we can play with it and not get hurt. But evidently they can't.
In the year and a half.
He's riding
Joe
his
Parker
bike
was hurt.
since.
He's undergone a series of painful skin graft operations. Fire Marshal Bill Neera believes that Cale survived because his friend Jacob acted quickly and knew what to do.
When a person catches himself on fire, of course he panics. He's going to run. The technique of stop, drop, and roll saves lives. And this is the reason that this one boy is here today.
If he hadn't known stop, drop, and roll, I don't think I'd be alive right now. I'd just keep on burning.
Jacob's mother is proud of her son and grateful for the people who helped prevent a tragedy by teaching stop, drop, and roll.
I have to give thanks to our fire department and for the time that they put into these kids at school. You know, the stop, drop, and roll method, if it saves one life, it's worth all the time that those people put into it.
I would tell other kids never to play with matches or never play with gasoline. Or not to do anything that you know would hurt you unless your parents are there. To know that's over with, I'm just gonna do my best on everything I can do.
Uh-oh, that food container won't contain your food, so you mess with cling wraps and foil, hoping food won't spoil. Well, not anymore. Now there's Stretch and Fresh containers, the amazing food storage containers with stretch and fit lids that let you store more. Even the odd-shaped foods you couldn't put in containers before. Watch, just stretch over the food and snap lock the lid to keep food fresh. That's it. Instantly, you got an airtight seal that locks air out and locks freshness in to help stop spoilage, so food stays fresher longer. Stretch and Fresh has a clear lid so you can see what's inside, so food stays sealed, retaining their natural colors, nutrients, and fresh flavors. There's even a freshness date dial to track storage. Prepare, eat. You get it.
#1 selling weight loss supplement by trying Lipozene. Risk-free for only $20.
Mr. Carroll, step out of the car, please.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a father's violent fall.
I noticed that huge fluid was spraying on the side.
Puts his life in the hands of his 7-year-old son.
My biggest concern was that he remained breathing until the fire department got there.
Then, a hunter's deadly mistake leaves a couple stranded and injured. Now a man must risk death to save his wife on Rescue 911.
As parents, we have to decide at what age our children are old enough to begin learning basic life-saving skills. But we tend to underestimate their capabilities, as Stephen Walker discovered on the evening of April 20th, 1990, while spending an evening with his 5-year-old son, Steve, at their home in Indianapolis.
go put on tape, I'll be down in a minute, okay?
I've been leaving the two of them alone together since Stevie was born, because Steve is a very doting father, and he's very watchful. He was going to cook, and they were going to go downstairs, and they would have a good time.
There you go, one more nice bite, Dave. One more. There you go. There you go, Stevie.
I heard the crash, and I turned around, and I just thought that was playing a game. Dad? Dad? I go, Dad? And he doesn't answer. And I say, are you playing a joke? And he doesn't respond there either. Dad, are you playing? I noticed that his lip was bleeding on the side, and I said, uh-oh, it's not a joke. I know it was all up in the end. My mind said, if you want to be good and to be pretty special, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Stevie's call was taken by Marion County Fire Dispatcher Susan Love.
Fire dispatcher. The caller began to state that his father had fallen down the steps and was not moving. Okay, Stevie. I realized at that point that I was talking to a child, and I realized that he was there by himself. I said, Stevie, if you do exactly as I tell you to do, I can help you through this until the fire department gets there.
Rescue units were immediately dispatched to the scene.
I knew that he had not called his mom at work, he had not called his grandparents. He had immediately called 911, and that is very crucial. Can you tell me if he's breathing?
I took my fingers and put it right between his chin and his nose, and I felt air coming out, so I knew he was still breathing.
Okay, now, I need to know if he's bleeding. Do you see any blood coming from anywhere? He said yes, there was blood coming from his head. The fact that he did have a head injury, that he was unconscious, that he wasn't moving, those are all very serious symptoms that you can put over where the blood's coming out to help control the bleeding. My biggest concern was that he remained breathing until the fire department got there, but Stevie was so respondent to me, I had total confidence that had he quit breathing, Stevie would have been able to deal with that too.
Hi guys, what you got?
EMTs and an advanced life support unit, including paramedic Jim Glad, arrived to help treat the victim.
He had a 3 or 4 inch laceration in the back of the head as a result of his fall down a flight of stairs. We weren't sure what the extent of the head injury was at that time.
Don't give me a mercy. Easy, bud.
If his father had remained unconscious, he may have very well bled to death or lost a considerable amount of blood to have endangered his life. So the time factor was very important. As we were leaving the scene, realizing he's the one that had called, I got down on my knees, patted him on the shoulder, as if you're going to call 911, you did a fine job, probably saved your father's life.
Steve was taken to Community Hospital East, where he was treated for multiple brain hemorrhages and released 8 days later. It's been 2 years since the accident, but Steve Walker will never forget the night his son Stevie came to his aid.
I was very lucky that he was as intelligent as he was, and that he handled it with the calm and cool of a pro.
You think he'll drive one of these days?
Maybe.
Maybe.
He certainly saved my life, and there's a debt there I can never repay.
130, I can go faster than that. I'm thankful that my dad's still here. We spend a lot of time together now, because if he ever has another accident, I'll be there for him.
This show had a major effect. I think it took the scare away from him of facing an emergency.
I remember lots of times when
He's
Stevie
riding
was
on
sitting
a
out in the
merry-go-round
office,
on carousel.
and then to find out that he called 911 from just watching it, it was just amazing.
If 911 would have never been on the air, I probably would not be here on the face of the earth today.
Next, hunting in this area is very popular. A lot of people hunt within a half mile of their home.
Dog hair, cat hair, your magic gander.
Which of these meals took
His list, but
It was getting a little late for a walk, but I thought, well, go out and get some fresh air, take a quick walk, run down to the,
In Norfolk. Healthy wheat-free lawn called True Green today.
In North Idaho, on October 15th, 1989, as the light was beginning to fade, Dennis and Frances Queasty set out for a walk.
it was getting a little late for a walk, but I thought, well, go out and get some fresh air, take a quick walk, run down to the river, back home, Chichipita, watch a little TV, that would be it for Sunday. And it didn't turn out quite like that.
Mr. Priestley was very mad at what had happened here because he said he walks that path every night, him and his wife. He said this shouldn't happen. Hunting in this area is very popular. A lot of people hunt within a half mile of their home. Because of this, people have to be extra careful. You never know when somebody just might be out for a walk.
We started for home, come back up the road about, I don't know, 200-300 yards, and there's a pickup truck coming. What's the radio down here?
Next rescue.
can't tell if it's too late. Get out of it too late.
The same instant, the muzzle flashed, the bull was there.
I didn't hear.
He got out of the pickup and he come up towards us, I don't know, 30, 40 feet, I guess. And we were hollering to tell him we were both hit, go call 911 when you need help. When I saw Francis later, I just, you don't know what to think. I mean, there's a million things run through your mind. Death is way back there, but you don't really want to think about it. I looked at the bullet on Francis. I went in her chest and I thought, this don't look real good. I'll go for help.
Dennis and Frances had both been hit by the same bullet. They needed immediate medical attention, but there was no phone anywhere near them.
I didn't get any response from anybody for hollering help, so I took the pistol out of my pocket, fired 3 shots in the air. And you're kind of in a daze there for a minute, but I feel a lot of blood coming. So I unbuttoned my shirt and stuck my hand in there, and I could feel the bone inside my arm and the joint there, and I could feel it was still all up together, so I knew it was still with me. And I took that shirt and I started packing it up in my armpit so it would kind of slow up the bleeding, and started to leave, and I thought, this don't really look good. I give her a hug, give her a little kiss, so I'll see you later, and I left. You just think maybe this might be the end. It's kind of a tough deal.
The first information about the incident was relayed to the sheriff's office at 6:45 p.m.
The male subject identifying himself as Don from Kootenai Medical Services called to advise that there had been an accidental shooting and that help was needed.
But they did not have a specific location. Rescue workers were dispatched to the general area.
This is Mary at the sheriff's office. Hello, Sheriff. Are you the lady that called? Yes.
Within minutes, a woman called in, identifying herself as the wife of the man who had done the shooting. But even she could give nothing more than general directions to the location.
How bad is
gist of the whole thing was wondering, you know, is she still alive?
When we continue.
I've been shot. You've been shot? My wife is trying to do I think she's dead.
I don't want to wrap the court. Unplug.
Got home, opened the door, and called 911. I kind of felt lightheaded. I'm not really clear on what all I said when I called him.
This call for help came in at 6:52 p.m.
Stop it. I've been shot. You've been shot? You're shot. My wife, I don't know if she's in or not. The Henry store on Old Pipeline Road. I'm not about to tap out, so I can't do anymore. All right, now just a minute. Where are you calling me? I'm calling from my house. It's Henry store in there. Denny Queasy. All right, Denny Queasy? My wife is trying to do I think she's dead. Oh my. The neighbor in there shot me. God is dead.
It just feels like if you close your eyes and just take a breather for a minute, but then you're back up again.
About 2 minutes away. Can you wait there for me, please? There is an ambulance coming, yeah. All right, now just a minute.
My thought is, if I lose Dennis, I'm going to lose the location on his wife. He had a tremendous feeling for his wife, and he was going to do the best he could for her. And I think this is really what kept him on his feet.
You just gotta do what you gotta do. Adrenaline, I don't know what you call it, but you never really think about laying down and quit.
Sheriff's Deputy John Mocketel, who arrived first, had known Dennis for years.
Dennis Queasy informed me that he had been shot. He thought his arm had been blown off, and his wife, he thought she was dead. I wanted to give him some medical attention, but he didn't want any medical attention. He wanted to get to his wife as soon as possible.
And we went across the highway and back down to this pipeline road, and I'm telling him that Francis is going to be laying along here somewhere. But all the time that you're going down there, you're not sure what you're gonna find, you know. It's kind of gnawing in the back of your mind that it isn't gonna be what you want to find when you get there.
Just off to the side of the road.
While I'm driving down this rough, windy road, Denny told me that he didn't know for sure exactly where he left her. And so he was searching and looking as hard as I was. I've known Frances as long as I've known Dennis, and she's a really neat person. It was rather difficult to drive through there and try to get there as quickly as possible without running over her.
When she didn't like the car coming, she did raise her leg up in the air and wave her foot back and forth to see where she was. We were just within 15, 20 feet of her.
Okay?
She said she was in pain. I quickly checked for bleeding. I found multiple injuries from her chest down to her abdomen. Bleeding seemed to be under control. And I explained to her that I didn't want to do anything to her at that point, and I wanted to keep her warm.
The ambulance arrived soon after.
It was a little bit of a shock when I rolled up on the scene and saw that it was Dennis Queasy was one of the victims. I've known Dennis and his wife both for about 20 years.
EMTs Steve Berg and Don Dion took care of the couple at the scene.
Dennis was scary. He was very pale, he had very large black circles around his eyes, and he was dripping with sweat. The only thing that was obvious to me was someone had gunned him. He looked like he'd been hunted.
The alleged suspect came in to the area and started screaming, "I thought it was a bear, I thought it was a bear, I didn't mean to shoot." And I told him, "This is not the time or the place, we'll conduct the investigation when the wounded are gone."
The gunshot wound entered the right side of the chest, and she stated to me that she could feel the bullet sticking out of the back. And the dangers that I feared the most was that it had punctured the lung, or it hit a major organ, and she was having a lot of internal bleeding. There really wasn't a lot we could do at the scene other than just being transported to the hospital, because it was obvious that both of them needed surgery.
Time was of the essence. We stopped the bleeding, we treated for shock, and we got her guts out.
By the time the ambulance made it the 8 miles to the nearest hospital, emergency medical staff members had gathered, including Dr. James Joy.
What do you got, Steve? Vitals? What they? Francis, can you hear me? Francis, can you hear me, Francis? What do you want? Okay, she's got no airway obstruction.
My first appearance of her was that she was very shocking. She had that cold, clammy, very pallor appearance, whitish appearance. We immediately started life support treatment to the patient. Her situation was very critical at that time. Her pressure was very low.
Blood pressures every 2 minutes. Dawn, just put her clothes on.
Once her pressure responded with fluids, I did my initial evaluation of the patient.
Get the chest tubes out, get the chest tubes.
My main concern was, I knew she had abdominal trauma, but did she have chest trauma? Some serious chest problems may not show you symptoms at that particular time. They can develop an hour, 2 hours afterwards. And I didn't want to get myself into a situation here that I couldn't handle, for fear that, I would be jeopardizing this patient's life.
Francis was flown by Lifebird to a hospital in Spokane, Washington, which was better equipped to handle any complications from her wound. Dennis was taken by ambulance to the same hospital, where both underwent immediate surgery.
I told Francis, if she got this far, she'd make it the rest of the way.
A month after the shooting, Dennis and Francis are still recuperating. If found guilty, the man accused of shooting them faces a maximum penalty of little more than that for shooting bears out of season.
It's hard to even let it sink in all at once that she might have died, because it's really hard to think about. And when I realized what my sons had been through and their wives and my parents, all this that they'd been through, waiting to see if I was going to live, it was just terrible to think that they had been through they had suffered so much.
Frances is a very lucky woman that she's alive today, and it's my belief that had she been shot directly in the chest, that she would have died. And the fact that her husband absorbed the initial shock is probably what saved her life.
Thank you.
Like having Frances now, we just know she's going to be better soon, so we can get on and do the stuff that we like to do together, Today my hand and my arm are still pretty much numb. I've been doing a little bit of therapy at the hospital. I haven't seen that's made a lot of difference, but they say it will. So we'll continue doing that.
But Dennis may never be able to return to work as a mechanic.
Chester?
When anyone hunts, they should have a clear picture of their target. A lot of people shoot a brush. They should never shoot a brush. A clear target is your only answer to safe hunting. You just can't shoot at anything that moves.
I'm just thankful we're both still alive. You can't really get it across how much you appreciate rescuing people. I mean, words just don't say that. I'm just glad we're alive.
Everybody has a visor in their car, but a visor in the wrong place can actually make it harder to see. American Eagle is outblocked.
There's Gemma to action.
Gotta get over there quick.
On Rescue 911.
Dawn's body. There's no excuse for that. There's nothing he could come up with in court that would explain that away. And so probably, of his many mistakes, that was the biggest one.
It was a mistake which cost him a sentence which will not see him eligible for parole until 2047. Not that Thomas Dunkley appeared to care as he stood in the court.
He was calm. Usually, you get a lot of shouting, or you get crying, falling about, and you get relatives shouting and screaming. Thomas Dunkley, calm, his head went down a little bit, because he just see the life go, but he was calm.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a woman is brutally attacked by an intruder in her own home.
I am bleeding. Where are you going to sit?
And 911 is her only hope.
Don't want you to move. We'll get into you.
I thought that she was going to die on the phone with her.
Plus,
And she said, I don't think I'll make it.
a surprise Christmas delivery one woman will never forget.
I looked up and I saw Santa Claus, and that was a trip.
On Rescue 911.
It was after dark on October 16, 1988, when a young woman in Lansing, Michigan got home from work. The door to her comfortable townhouse was still locked. She had no reason to expect a visitor. Actors have helped us reconstruct the events that shattered a quiet night.
When we continue,
I honestly felt her voice was quivering and she was telling me that I'm getting weak. I thought that she was going to die.
Trisilk.com.
Hi, we're in the school church. I live at 4037. I just been scared. I'm bleeding all over the place.
At 8:55 p.m., a call came in to 911 dispatcher Paul Golden.
Scared in the place. Who's second, ma'am? 150, 160 pounds. Wearing a beanie, black leather coat. I don't know, but you gotta get, I gotta get my bleeding all over. Okay, ma'am, where are you the chest? In the chest on the left side. Okay, just hang on here just a minute. I am bleeding. Yes, ma'am, I'm gonna get somebody around. Just stop any unit, him standing, just occurred.
3 police officers responded to the call.
$20 in cash. Yes, ma'am, I know you're hurting. Nice and easy. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just occur 4037. My money is probably $15, $20. Thank you. Just hang on, and I'm trying to do the one over there. That's right. Put it in the chest. Okay, well, that's the way to go back. Ma'am? I'm going to pass out. I can feel it. Can you sit down anywhere? Can you just sit down? Can you hang on the phone and sit down?
I did not want her to pass out. I told her to put pressure to the wound and just concentrate on her breathing. Because time is the thing that's against you when you've been assaulted.
Considering the location of the wound, my concern was that the lung's been punctured.
Okay, I just want you to stay right there. I don't want you to move. We'll get into you. Don't worry about that. Okay, now I just want you to concentrate on your breathing. Seems like this time is the longest ever, but they're going to be there. Yes, ma'am, it does. Go ahead. If you feel like crying, just go ahead and let it out. Sometimes that crying will help.
My voice is her only link to outside help. And if I don't stay calm, she doesn't either. She's going to lose it.
Somebody there very, very gently. Just about that breathing in your nose and out through your mouth.
I honestly felt her voice was quivering and she was telling me that I'm getting weak. I thought that she was going to die on the phone with me.
Think about that breathing. I don't want you to think about anything else. In through that nose and out through the mouth. Just nice and easy breath. Yes, ma'am, I know you're hurting. I want you to just relax everything that you possibly can. I know it's going to hurt. I don't want you to think about that at all. Just think about your breathing. Nice and easy. Just real nice and easy. Here's this to your brain. Your brain is I know my brain is.
When Sergeant Nancy Small arrived at the scene, the front door was locked from the inside.
She's locked. She's about to pass out there. The house is locked up. They're going to have to break in to get to her.
Nice and easy. I want you to breathe nice and easy. My officers are outside. The ambulance is outside. They're going to try to get inside the house. You will probably hear a crashing sound. I don't want you to become startled or alarmed.
We were trying to find a way to get in. Around the back, there was a window that looked in, so I went around to the back, and as I got closer to the window, I could see that the window was partially open, so I climbed through the window.
Okay, I got officers coming through the back of the house. They have an open window back there, so don't be startled. It's going to be like the...
I think she was about at the end of her rope at that point.
She was bleeding quite badly. Very chalky color, appeared to have lost a lot of blood. Just nice and easy. She was stabbed one time to the chest. The blade was approximately 3 inches long. If she'd not been able to contact 911, it's very possible that she had bled to death. Okay, this is really looking up here.
Prima Church was prepared. She knew what to say. And that's one of the good calls. That's one of those that you feel good about because as bad as the situation was, at least something good came out of it. She knew to dial 911, and it worked. That evening, I went to the hospital to see how bad it was. It had punctured through her lung. If she'd get up and moved around, it could have been lethal.
It was a nightmare for me to be assaulted. My life has had to take a 360-degree turnaround. I've now moved in with my brother. I have to be much more careful about giving out my telephone number, giving out my address, but I've chosen to go on with my life and not be afraid. I can't live being afraid, wondering, looking over my shoulder all the time.
Prima was released from the hospital within 5 days.
When I returned to work, my company had approached me and said, we would like to honor the person that saved your life. When the night came for the party, I'm kind of like searching the crowd for this person, and then next thing I know, he was there, and I'm shaking the hand of the person that saved my life.
And they asked me to stand up, and there was 1,000 people in that room, and they clapped, and they clapped, and they clapped. If I was anywhere else, I probably would have started crying. I really would have. I was just overwhelmed that everything that I wanted to do and the things that I was doing had made a difference. I just always had the feeling inside of me that my goal in life was to help people. And with 911, I can do that. Whatever emergency you have, you can call 911 and we'll be there.
Next, dispatch called back to us and asked us what our estimated time of arrival was. Usually that means that something serious is going on at the scene.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of alien tape free. Insecure.
So
91. And volunteer EMTs was
Daily Crime, an all-new podcast from Vault Studios.
It was the night before Christmas in 1991, and volunteer EMTs were spreading holiday cheer at a local hospital in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Brandon, who do you think I might be, buddy?
Across town, 24-year-old Sabrina Parker's second child was due any day. That night, around 6 p.m., she was waiting at her mother's house for her boyfriend Calvin Young to return with their 4-year-old daughter Candace.
We'll bring him back. Yeah, I had just brought Candace home when Sabrina was laying there in the bed like she might have been in pain. So I asked, was she all right? Hey, real bad? I said, well, would you like me to take you to the hospital? You sure?
Mama, is she gonna have my baby running now?
He's so cool. Was her real bad? She couldn't hardly stand up. How long's been hurt? She took maybe 1 or 2 steps towards the hallway, and she said, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I don't think I'm gonna make it.
The Forsyth Rescue Squad was immediately dispatched to the scene, including volunteer EMT Gordon Miller.
My first thought was how ridiculous this is going to look when I run into this house and we find some woman ready to give birth.
Calvin's second 911 call came in to dispatch a Fran Hall.
She's in real bad pain and she's in labor right now at the time. Okay. I'm just trying to get her to find a right. What is that question inside? The baby's about to come out. Okay.
You really have to be careful to interpret what they're saying about what's going on. Listen to what's going on in the background. You have to listen to the tone of the voice. I'm trying to decide if this baby really is about to be delivered right this minute, like they say.
Sabrina's mother, Audrey, took over the call. EMT Ron Dale was also a volunteer.
Dispatch called back to us and asked us what our ETA was. Usually that means that something serious is going on at the scene. I felt this overwhelming sense of urgency, like I couldn't get there fast enough.
My biggest concern was in helping the lady to be able to handle the delivery if the baby delivered before the rescue squad and EMS got there. All I could do was just make her ready to take care of it if that happened. There's nothing we could do to stop the delivery. The baby's gonna be born.
Contractions were getting worse and worse, and she was pushing more. I knew I had to be there for her, but I didn't want to have to do it myself.
I runs out the door, like looking up the street trying to see if I hear sirens or see the paramedics, see any kind of red lights. The 30-second was, to me, was 2 minutes, and 2 minutes to me was 5 minutes, because my nerves was red by this time.
Service deliveries on the harvest time.
After another contraction, when she saw more of the baby, she said it looked slick and shiny. The sack's not broken.
If that head comes out and the sack is still over the face, you're going to have to cut it, not the baby, but the sack. It's like a little spinning and tearing away the baby's face. The head's going to be okay. You know, the sack looks on you.
That's the point that terrified me, having to bust the sack myself.
Don't cut the baby.
It was terrifying, but I knew I would do it.
I'm running back around the truck with the driver, and I noticed something, and I like, you know, look, and then I didn't pay no more attention, you know, I'm thinking about some bread, and I'm like, I asked about that lady, you know.
It was so apparent that this child's time is now. He just ripped off the beard and glasses and wig. That's all we had time for.
Okay. What's your name? Sabrina?
I've never been on an obstetrical call where the amniotic sac was keeping the baby from being delivered. I mean, the ambulance was very close behind us, and so I decided to let them get in and assess the situation, and for us to make kind of a group decision is what we were going to do.
It's going good, man. It's going great.
Moments later, paramedic Tim Homer and his partner arrived.
I got there and immediately saw that the bag of water was not broken, it was bulging, it was preventing the baby from being delivered. Ron was in position, and I said, well, all I gotta do is break it. And Ron said, well, I'm not sure how to do that. This is my first delivery, and I'm like, uh-oh. I said, well, I'll break it, and then, you know, we'll just go on and let you deliver.
Every time I would go out the door, I would hear several voices. Santa Claus, what you doing? Santa Claus, come over here.
Go ahead and push if you have to. All right, there we go. There's the...
I actually saw the baby actually being pushed out, the shoulders and stuff was coming out. And I'm looking at the expression on Sabrina's face and looking at actually seeing this child being brought into this life. And I'm like, gosh, when women go through some stuff, man, you know, because I'm like thinking, man, God, man, they gotta go through all of this. Ooh.
Very good. Very good little boy.
At that point, I thought that the hard work was over, but I realized that the baby was not breathing yet. Attempt to suction the secretions out of the baby's nose and mouth. And then I slapped him on the rear end a few times. That didn't work. I grabbed his foot and thumped him on the bottom of the foot several times, and that wasn't working either. I was concerned that what might have been a happy situation was going to turn tragic within just a few seconds. But I kept on trying that much harder to get him to breathe. And I thumped him 3 or 4 more times maybe, and that's when he got out a small cry.
Alright, that's it, baby. Okay, hear that? Okay. Got 10 fingers and 10 toes.
When the birth was complete and I was looking at the baby and looking at Ron and the obvious elation on his face, it reminded me of his comment, wouldn't it be nice if we had the opportunity to deliver a baby on Christmas Eve, and how appropriate this all was, that his wish had come true.
Serena, you just made my Christmas.
It was just an incredible experience. What a great feeling. I'll remember that the rest of my life. Yeah, I feel like it. Mom warm here.
And they put me on the stretcher. And I looked up and I saw Santa Claus with his suit on and stuff.
That comfortable there?
And I was like, okay, Santa Claus. Yeah, and that was a trip.
Christmas means different things to different people. For Sabrina and her family, it will forever be remembered as a time when baby Jeremy came into their world.
I'm not going to plan on his future and let him sort of figure it out for himself. I just want to do the right things. Same thing go for Ken. Encourage them in whatever they want to do. Try to help them as much as I can.
I think Candy is under the impression now that Santa Claus don't only bring toys every year now, he brings babies too, Now I had to explain it to her, that Santa Claus not bringing your brother next year, okay,
As the years go by, EMT Rondale will always cherish the memories of one Christmas past.
Aww, what a cute baby.
I
Sabrina
looked at
and
him
her
and
boyfriend.
kept thinking, how about that? That's the kid that I delivered on Christmas Eve.
First one, man. That's right. You have to bring a life that they come into the world. It's a bonding, just like a parent having a kid. Yeah. And I think Ron felt that too, He's like, I recognize you.
I had done my job right, and this was the end result. Under the circumstances, it would be hard not to believe in Santa Claus after seeing something like this.
Each of these meals took just 15 minutes.
To prepare.
Next week for more true stories on Rescue 911.
Today on Rescue 911, an emergency at sea.
She was a parent.
An underwater adventure means deep trouble.
This wasn't just a distressed diver. I had a diver that was dying.
Watch as friends take the plunge to save a life.
We're very concerned for her that she might not make it.
Then, Hikers get the shock of their lives.
It was just the biggest thing I ever saw.
And the father races for help as the venom takes effect on Rescue 911.
Life should not only be measured by what we get out of it, but also by what we do to help others. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of real heroes whose concern and confidence make a difference on Rescue 911.
We begin on October 11th, 1992, as Jody Farber and a group of friends were enjoying a diving trip off the Florida Keys. Experienced divers, they were all too aware that the sea is not forgiving.
This is an annual event that we come down to Marathon for a 4-day dive trip.
Mark James and his wife Pat had only been married a month.
How's that? Pat's a very conservative diver. The first day she was, I was a little too scared because of the current. But the second day, we had no reason to believe that anything was going to be out of the usual.
Pat asked my husband, Ken and I, if she could buddy with us that day. On this 60-foot dive we were doing, Pat stayed real close to us. This reef is known for its big fish. Ken decided on this dive that he'd rather take his pole spear with in case he could see a nice big grouper or something good for dinner. I would just check and make sure that we all were okay, that we all were in 1,000 pounds of air. And I was looking around to see what else there was that I could play with or what else I could take some pictures of. She was out of air. And I just couldn't believe she was out of air because I knew she wasn't. But yet she was in a panic. Her eyes were just as huge as saucers. So you react to that signal. When she got my regulator in her mouth, she was holding on to that with both hands. And she was making this horrible sound under the water. That was a scary sound to hear. I turned to see where Ken was, my husband, because I wanted him to come and assist us. And he had turned his back to us to look at something in the reef. When I turned back to look at Pat, she had passed out. That's when I really knew that this wasn't just a distressed diver. I had a diver that was dying.
When we continue,
I realized it was my wife, and then I felt the most incredible feeling of helplessness I've ever felt in my life.
There has never been a better time to join AARP. This special offer gives you exclusive
If you smoked. Smokers.
Mom, it's all you see.
Get Pat to the surface as fast as I could.
while diving 60
For a healthy weed-free lawn, call True Green today.
While diving 60 feet below the surface in the Florida Keys, Pat James passed out, leaving her life in the hands of her friend,
Jody Farber.
The main thought in my mind at that point was just to get Pat to the surface as fast as I could without us dying or both of us getting bent.
Diving instructor Randy Shell heard Jody's cries for help.
Jody was panicking, not so much for fear of herself, but for her buddy. I pulled her up on the boat and rolled her over on her side, and then it became very obvious that she had drowned. She was attempting to breathe, even though she was unconscious.
Let's get these other people up.
After several expulsions of water, she basically regained consciousness just for a minute and screamed for help.
Get some oxygen here. Everybody, what's happening? What's going on?
Pat's husband, Mark, heard the commotion and came over.
And I realized it was my wife. She was the most color I'd ever seen anybody in my life. I was on the edge of just falling apart. And then I felt the most incredible feeling of helplessness I've ever felt in my life.
The captain of the ship radioed to have paramedics meet him at the dock.
Down side, see fine?
Throughout the 40 minutes it took to get Pat back to shore, they continued to give her oxygen.
Randy and everybody kept saying, oh, you did good, you did good. But my thought was, I did good, but did I bring up a vegetable? Was Pat going to be okay after all that?
Monroe County paramedics Jordan Nicola and Kathleen Dust were waiting to treat Pat.
When we got on the boat, she was curled up in a ball, almost in what I would say a fetal position. And she was breathing, but you could hear that there was bubbles in her lung sounds.
Let's get her on the left side. It was pretty conclusive that she had a lot of salt water in her lungs, and she wasn't getting enough oxygen into her bloodstream because it was filling up with water. Okay, all right, Pat. So in a sense, she was actually almost drowning in her body fluids. Hey, Pat, how you doing, Pat? Huh?
Her blood pressure was dropping and her pulse was increasing.
All right, good. Good flow. We got a good flow here. I'm going to take it down.
Okay.
Pat, how you doing? How you feeling?
We were very concerned for her that she might not make it.
Okay, I'm going to get Pat on the left side.
This is hospital priority 1. The hospital gave us a go-ahead to give Lasix, which clears up the lungs so that the patient can breathe better.
Is it running? She's going into shock.
Okay.
Every paramedic's concern and outcome is to make their patient, I believe, better. But when they found them, she was getting worse. She was deteriorating.
A Metro-Dade air rescue helicopter transported Pat to Mercy Hospital in Miami, where she was put in a hyperbaric chamber. Her husband, Mark, rejoined her there.
Right off the bat, I told her I loved her, and that I was glad to see she was doing well. And I told her, I said, when all this is over, we're going to sit down and have a good cry together. And we're going to get her back home just as soon as we can.
Pat was released 2 days later without any permanent injuries. The accident had occurred when a new mouthpiece disconnected from a regulator hose, and she breathed in water.
I can remember the thought going through my head that I was going to die, that I was never going to see my husband again. We had only been married 4 weeks. I thought it wasn't fair. I felt so sad and so cheated. And now that we still have a chance to do all these things, I have so much to look forward to. Mark turned to me when we were on the boat with tears just streaming down his face and said, thank you, thank you. He said, you were the only person that I would have wanted her to have been with when this would have happened, because you saved her life.
Every day I realize that I was incredibly lucky to have Jody with me, that I'm extremely fortunate just to be here today.
2 months later, Pat went diving again.
The crisis of having to go through this with someone and knowing how close to death she actually was makes me so glad and so happy that we have been given a second chance. And we both know what it takes now to make a good marriage after having been through a couple already for each of us. We believe we were intended to be together.
Next.
As I was running through the woods, he's getting real sleepy and real limp. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, my son's gonna die right in my arms.
Keeping your floors clean, clean water, and with this, you'll get the...
Rescue 911, Rescue 911, Rescue 911.
On March 8th, 1992, Nancy DeMorgandy and her husband took their 4 children and some friends to a wooded area near their home in Pinellas Park, Florida. Before the day was over, they discovered that for all its beauty and wonder, nature can also hold some very deadly surprises.
We decided to go on a nature walk, to get away from the traffic and the people and just have fun. So off into the woods we went. My husband Daniel always walks a little bit ahead of us. He's got a walking stick he carries and kind of scares off any lizards or anything that us girls might not like around.
Be careful. We make a lot of noise. Walking through these woods, of course, you're crunching on leaves and breaking branches. We didn't really think that there would be anything out there to really be afraid of. A thud or a push on my left leg, like Sean had kicked me, like he wanted to like slide down my leg and walk. And I turned around to throw Jean back up on my hip. When I looked at my oldest son, Noah, and he had this look in his eye like just sheer terror. And when I looked at what he was looking at, it was just the biggest snake I ever saw. And it made this sound that goes right down to your spine and just grabs your heart out. And I checked Noah, I says, you okay? He said, yeah, I'm okay. And then I checked Sean and I started frisking him from his shoulders and I came down to his butt.
I was scared that I didn't understand what had just happened.
I turned around and I pulled his pants down and I just saw blood.
I didn't know it was a rattlesnake until I heard the sound. It was like a death horn.
With all of my being, I ran just as hard and as fast as I could because I knew that this is a life and death situation. because I knew the size of my son. I knew how big the snake was. And I just put just all this anger and frustration and just everything that I had in my body to running to get him to the fire station. As I was running through the woods, he's getting real sleepy. He's starting to get real heavy and real limp. And then I'm thinking to myself, my God, my son's going to die right in my arms. So I was yelling, like, please, Lord, just don't let this happen to my son.
Daniel drove John to Pinellas Park County Fire Station 36, less than a mile away. One of the paramedics on duty that day was Max Melendez.
Right away when I saw the fan marks, I was looking at least 3 inches wide, blood still oozing out. I knew we had a big, bad snake. It looked like Dracula just bit him.
EMT Julie Heinecke was also at the station.
Anytime someone comes in contact with a poisonous snake the size that this one was, you're talking about a good chance of death.
We got help.
What he needed was the antivenom.
Good. Hold on. Let me get ready to put him on the board.
I knew if I didn't get him to the hospital right away,
1, 2, 3.
the little boy would die.
The station had no ambulance. With time running out, Jean was put in a fire truck to be taken to the hospital.
By the time I got out of the woods, I couldn't breathe. I looked down the road, and that's when I saw the fire truck, and I just started running for it. Nancy! Sheer terror was going through my mind. All I wanted was to get to Jean, and I couldn't reach him. The harder I ran, the further away the fire truck got. That's when reality hit, that it was a lot worse than I thought. And I really didn't think I'd ever see it.
Less than 6. Make some ice. Hand outside. We're still breathing.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking down at John, and he takes these 3 heavy sighs, and then his body went totally limp. I mean, I was holding his hand, and I could just feel his life force just like leave his body. That's what it felt like. I just fell to pieces, and I just started screaming, John, John, don't do this, don't die.
At Humana Hospital Northside, 3-year-old John was put under the care of emergency physician Beverly Wilshire.
Antivenom can cause serious allergic reactions, in fact, even death in some instances. So I had to clinically assess the situation and decide, well, should I go ahead and give this without testing it first?
It's okay, sweetie. It's okay.
He looked listless and unresponsive and very ashen in color. The child was in shock.
Keep on in line. Okay, here we go.
We checked his blood pressure, he didn't have one. At that point, I knew that things were very, very serious, and we had to get the antivenom in this child. I felt that if I hadn't given it as soon as possible, that his chances of survival, he would have died.
All the machines around him, all the IVs. I wanted to take the pain for Jean. I wanted to take his place. I couldn't stand to see what he looked like. The more I looked at him, the more I thought I was going to lose him.
John was transferred to All Children's Hospital, where he was given additional antivenom and blood transfusions.
As the moments and the hours passed, Jean's blood pressure kept dropping. And it got harder and harder to go in and be with him. The harder they tried to fight the venom, the more the blood pressure dropped, the more the blood broke down, and it got to the point where everything they tried seemed to make him sicker.
After 3 days, the little boy's condition slowly began to improve.
The first time Jean asked me if we could go home, I knew he was going to be okay.
2 months later, he has completely recovered.
Jean and my family are the luckiest people in the world. I can't believe that he was so sick. And you look at him today and it's like nothing ever happened. He's so bouncy and full of life that when I look at Jean, my heart just melts.
Hold on.
I could never show enough gratitude to the paramedics and the nurses and the doctors. They gave me my baby's life. I thank them. And I love them.
Give me care.
Here, put it on your hand flat, like that. Real flat. Real flat.
I did everything humanly possible to save my son, and I know that Max did everything he could, and the hospital did everything they could, but when it all comes down to it, it just wasn't his time to go.
Stuffed up? Stop suffering with My Pure Mist, the only handheld ultra-pure steam inhaler. My Pure Mist is proven to provide fast, natural, drug-free relief from allergies, sinus congestion, sinus pain, dryness, colds, and flu. Only My Pure Mist gently showers your sinuses with Micro Mist for superb, natural, drug-free relief. No wonder 9 out of 10 users get instant symptom relief. Get My Pure Mist risk-free at Target, CVS, or Amazon. Get relief today.
Which of these meals took just 15 minutes to prepare? All of them. Gobble does the planning and prep work for you, then delivers freshly prepared dinner kits right to your doorstep, so you can cook up a deliciously fresh, chef-designed meal in just 15 minutes. Really? So let us deliver next week's dinner. Sign up today and save $80. That's $20 off your first 4 deliveries. Visit gobble.com/cook80.
My son needs the stroke. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry. Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions. Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
At Finger Hut, we don't define you by your credit score, so we offer low monthly payments on things you need and brands you trust as you build your credit history with a Finger Hut credit account. You do you.
I have a Finger Hut credit account. That's where I got my cell phone. Step out of the car, please.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, terror in the classroom.
He didn't give us any sign, he just goes, oh no.
A brave teacher risks it all.
Those three things, we'll not be able to see.
To save his class from tragedy. Then,
anytime you go inside, you're looking crumble.
Firefighters faced more than flames.
Sound like an explosion.
And a falling building could turn heroes into victims on Rescue 911.
I'm gonna upload Animal Rescue Classics on Decades Network.
programming is EI,
Yeah,
educational and
educational
informative.
The following program contains actual video of real animal emergencies and is suitable for family viewing. Coming next, a large horse falls into a concrete wash. Can emergency crews safety equine before it drowns? Plus, desperate attempts to save cats.
Oh, I did get 62 apples.
This is Animal Rescue Classics.
You know, this Animal Rescue Classics, Animal Rescue is on True Crime Network too.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Payne. In Northern California, an unfortunate accident leads to a really incredible rescue involving lots of caring people. A large horse falls into this concrete wash and is pushed by the deep rushing water for 2 miles until the animal is lodged against a metal grate. Fighting for its life, the injured horse now must wait for rescue teams to devise a plan to save it.
Initially, when we were first there, just animal control and myself and the fire department, we didn't know how we were going to get the animal out of there. You know, everybody's talking about putting ropes on it and just dragging it out. When I first got there, I thought, you know, this is a horse we're going to lose. The force of the water heading glued against this grate. Part of the problem is the grate sloped away from the direction of the water, so if he did struggle, every struggle would push him further down into the water. We needed to act to keep him from sliding deeper into the water right away.
So the rescuers immediately proceeded to secure the animal.
First thing we did was get a rope on his tail, get a halter on him with a lead rope, and you can suspend him pretty good that way and keep him from going deeper in the water.
Time is a factor in any rescue attempt, but Dr. Fellers was also very concerned because the horse was almost completely submerged in cold water.
He actually was relatively bright and alert. He was breathing relatively easily. He was shivering, of course, as this water was pretty cold and just flowing over him. So you knew that combination of cold water running continuously over the animal's body is going to just suck the heat out of him, and he'd begin to get hypothermic. So there was a real sense of urgency, and we could see it in the horse.
The horse was not only cold, but thought to be hungry, since he had been in this predicament for some time. But even getting some hay down to the animal proved to be a difficult task to accomplish.
Oh, they got 20,000.
The rescue crews were now trying to place a makeshift harness consisting
So I
of fire
can
hose
either
around
get
the animal.
$1 PayPal or 50 cents.
However, getting those fire hoses underneath the horse was also not too easy due to the rushing waters.
The fire hoses worked real slick because the heavy nozzle on the end could be dropped in the water on the far side of the horse, and it would sink down and then kind of float underneath the horse. And then they used their long grappling hooks to snag the hose on the near side and bring
I'm
it
down
back
to
up.
like 37% battery.
The guy was in a harness hanging way out over this horse trying to get this done, because if a person fell in the water there, they would be in some serious trouble.
As the firefighters continue their dangerous work, more needed help arrives. a crew from the local electric company drives onto the scene with a large boom arm attached to their truck. And the driver, unbelievably, who has rescued a horse in a similar situation before.
You know, it's almost serendipity that the right guy from PG&E showed up with having been through this. And so, you know, they had this truck with this long telescoping boom and a cable on it. And that was the piece that we needed to be able to lift the horse out of there without hurting him. We began to discuss, how can we get this horse out of here?
The new plan called for construction of a makeshift sling that would be attached to the boom.
We finally decided to use a ladder, and that way you could put straps through a ladder that would maintain their width or their distance so the straps don't all slide together and the horse will get out of the sling. And then we use their fire hoses, because you want a strap that's fairly wide, also substantial in strength, because we've got to pull a 1,000-pound animal out of water. So there's that inertia of pulling it out of the water.
But would this new plan work? And could the emergency crews make a successful rescue before the horse drowns?
As you have seen, many compassionate individuals are helping in this difficult rescue. We'll find out what happened right after this brief break.
In the time we're there, you could see the horse slipping away on us. So, you know, as we worked, there became more and more a sense of urgency. You know, we've got to build.
It really has.
And this horse fell into the wash several hours ago and is trapped against a metal grate. Although the animal appears to be standing, there's several feet of water flowing underneath its body. The force of the rushing waters has actually pinned the equine against the metal barrier.
Not only was he stuck against this grate, he had two of his legs stuck between the bars of the grate. The bars were about vertical running bars about 6 inches apart. And two of his legs stuck through those bars. And so we knew not only did we have to pick him up, but we may have to kind of play with the legs a little bit to get him loose. And we didn't want him fighting it, kicking, you know, hurting himself or hurting people.
Firefighters have used their hoses to successfully rig a harness around the animal. And a local electric company has brought in its boom arm truck to help lift the horse out. The makeshift hose harness is attached to a ladder, and now everyone is wondering, will this rescue effort succeed?
In the time we were there, you could see the horse slipping away on us. So, you know, as we worked, there became more and more a sense of urgency. You know, we've got to get going on this. Probably total time it took to get everything all organized and get this all put together and get it all into place and get all the equipment there and everything. Probably took
To the boom arm. More minutes pass, and now the horse's entire body appears to be sinking below the water level. A rescuer tries to keep the animal's head above water, as another daring colleague tries to secure the horse to the rigging. The emergency teams have to make sure all the hoses are properly in place. or risk the large animal sliding free of the sling and drowning in the rushing waters.
We weren't exactly sure how this was going to work. Is the horse going to stay stable in the sling? Are those legs going to come free, or somebody going to have to climb down in there and pop those loose? Will the ladder literally bend in half under the weight?
They must act now. With all teams in sync and with fingers crossed, everyone believes the horse is now secure and ready to be lifted.
Everybody's just kind of got out of the way and said, you know, give it a lift. The horse was incredibly calm. And as he began to move, his legs just came loose from the grate. Once he was free, then the guy that was running the hoist kicked it in gear, and we pulled him up, and then that boom could swing around to level ground. We had to go slow at first. Is the horse going to struggle and fight against us? Could he tip over upside down and drown in a minute with all of us sitting there watching?
When everything seems to be going smoothly, all of a sudden a hose gets loose and the horse begins to slip out of the harness. The animal panics, but the rescue crew quickly keeps things under control.
And that was the next big question. What does the horse do, you know, when he touches ground? We weren't sure whether he would again try to fight things and flop around and kick around and try to get free from all the straps. He was still sedate enough from this hypothermia that he just laid down, again, with virtually no struggle, just laid down flat on the ground. We quickly got all the straps away from him, so he was free. I had a chance then to go over him really for the first time, because before all I could really deal with was his head. He had a heart rate of 58, which is only slightly above normal. His core temperature at that point was about 94 degrees, which is cooler than normal, but at least it was registering. He sat up and did that, you know, with a nice controlled motion. It was, you know, it was apparent at that point that he was able to control his muscles in a coordinated way. We offered him a little feed. While he sat up, he just started munching on feed. He had a lot of scrapes and cuts all over his legs where he'd obviously been trying to scramble out of the canal and just rubbed him against the concrete. But basically, it was okay. Ended up wrapping one leg where there was a wound, a scrape that was fairly deep, right close to a joint. I had the opportunity to talk to the owner of the horse the next day, and he described where he lived. It ended up being about 2.5 miles up the canal. He lived close to the canal, and the horse had gotten out a back gate and wandered up along the canal eating grass, and somehow had stumbled in.
What a great team effort to save that unfortunate horse. Caring people got involved and saved an injured animal. Next up, fire sweeps through an apartment and the lives of several cats hang in the balance.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, help is on the way. With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
I was having a stroke, and I was scared to death.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Life Alert is a lifesaver.
My husband is alive because of Life Alert.
Life Alert is the lifesaver to keep me out of assisted living.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-863-0449. That's 1-800-863-0449. Call now. 1-800-863-0449.
Lose the buck.
Go find the landscape.
The fire was believed to have started on a balcony where an unattended barbecue fell over. No one was home at the time except for several pets inside.
Right here, get hoisted up.
One cat and a dog have been seen running out to safety. But as firefighters continue to douse the blaze, the apartment resident arrives at the scene, telling crews that 3 other cats are missing. Firefighters go back inside and discover the 3 felines, barely breathing and almost lifeless. They rush the cats outside and immediately administer oxygen. Comforting the injured felines, these compassionate firefighters work carefully, trying to bring the cats back to life as their anxious owner looks on. Two of the cats slowly respond to the emergency aid. But the third is still having severe difficulties because of smoke inhalation. Finally, the most seriously injured cat begins to breathe easier. All 3 cats live, thanks to the dedicated efforts of some special firefighters. Animal Rescue returns right after this.
To Sofia and Gabriel, mis flores, my little flowers. Even though these old leaves can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love, so you can take me with you wherever you go, near or far. These stitches and threads join us together. Me, your mother, and both of you. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is him. His real name is Darion, and we call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's affection, attention, knowledge, and there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The the craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. Just do it from the right place. As long as it's coming from love, then, you know, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job. I'll say my kid's pretty dope.
The Art Trust presents Noah's Notes, an animal rescue safety tip. If you own a cat, you should be aware of feline leukemia. Feline leukemia virus infection is the leading cause of death in cats. The virus is passed from cat to cat by licking, biting, and sneezing. Symptoms include fever, appetite loss, vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, coughing, and seizures. While there is no cure for feline leukemia, prevention is the best medicine, and there is a vaccine available to aid in the prevention of the virus. For more information, consult your local veterinarian. And that's this edition of Animal Rescue. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we showcase those caring individuals who help the various creatures in the animal kingdom. I'm Alex Payne, and here's what's coming up. On the next Animal Rescue, trying to catch a wayward emu with the police hot on its trail. Plus, a mountain lion takes a nap in the wrong backyard.
Had a long tail. There wasn't no kitty cat either.
And a hapless moose wanders way out onto a frozen bay. Now emergency crews try to help it back to shore.
We've tried 3 or 4 times. Hold him, he wouldn't stand.
Next time on Animal Rescue.
People who have walked on the moon. 1 in 625 million. People of perfect pitch.
Started by Whitney, Real Home Realizations by Realtor.com.
Why is it called working from home? It should be called working from junk closet. Right, Sky Bob?
Now that you've spent so much time at home, maybe it's time to find a new one. Realtor.com.
A fresh twist on reality TV is here. The hottest series, the biggest reveals, and show-stopping drama. It's television with a twist.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911. Terror in the classroom.
He didn't give us any sign, he just goes, oh no.
A brave teacher risks it all.
I was afraid that Mrs. Dillon would not be able to see.
To save his class from tragedy. Then,
anytime you go inside, you let them crumble.
firefighters face more than flames.
Sound like an explosion.
And a falling building could turn heroes into victims on Rescue 911.
They begin on January 31st, 1989, at Durham High School in North Carolina, just before school was about to start.
We had
in the process of remodeling the math science building. This was the very first day that we had relocated back to the math science building.
Durham High School Principal Dr. Barbara Ellis and her staff were in a long-range planning meeting.
Sodium borate, half pound. Sodium borate, half pound.
In the chem lab, construction workers had dumped all the chemicals together in trash cans. Chemistry teacher Suri Shatila asked Matt Cook and 4 other honor students to help him put things away.
But these chemicals were not in good condition. Some of them did not have the tops, some of them didn't have the labels, and we didn't exactly all know what we were dealing with. There was a lot of corrosion everywhere, and so everything needed to be washed and cleaned again. Mr. Jatila was telling us, please be careful, because they're in really bad shape and they look like they're really, really unsafe.
Quarter pound. Red acetate, 1 pound. Ammonium chloride, 1 gram.
He didn't give us any sign, he just goes, oh no, and jumped down off the counter and grabbed the vial and ran out of the classroom. And we just thought it was a joke because it was smoking. Nobody really understood what happened.
But Suri Shatila knew that the smoking beaker contained sodium metal, a highly volatile substance that can react violently when put in contact with air or water. He ran to get the beaker outside before it exploded.
Today we're going to talk about cell.
By then, classes were in session throughout the building. Hundreds of students and teachers were at risk. When we continue.
Scientific message.
I'll key finder with you. It's the best way to be aware and be safe.
Biology teacher Mary Gunn was the first to respond to the explosion.
They said I'm blind. And at that particular time, I put my arms around him, guided him out, and I kept saying to him, no, you're not. I led him on back to the back of my classroom and held his head on the eyewash.
No one knew quite what had happened, but Mary Young's student ran to the principal's office to get help.
What I could see of his eyes didn't appear to be the right color. I was afraid that Mr. Stiller would not be able to see, but I didn't want him to think that.
Emergency.
The call came into 911 at 8:31 a.m.
Can you tell me what's wrong, please? Was the secretary. She sounded
I wonder if this is the same high school, Durham High School in North Carolina. I wonder if this is the same high school that Russell Staker was a baseball coach at in 1988. Because Barbara Staker was on forensic files because Barbara Staker, Russ's wife, killed Russ.
I was trying to flush until the paramedics arrived. He never lost consciousness, even though he was frustrated, crying, and frightened, and I was too.
And here this chemistry teacher.
When we were evacuated, everyone was taken out to the football field, and people were playing around, because it was just like another fire drill. So it wasn't a lot of chaos. It was just people were talking and everything. When the ambulance drove up, silence covered the field. I wanted to know what was going on.
5 minutes after the call came in, paramedic Robert Lucas and his partner arrived at the scene.
No one was able to tell us exactly what the chemicals were or exactly what had happened. So we had to assume that it was some type of an acid or an alkali and go ahead and remove the patient's clothing to keep any chemicals that were on his clothes at the time from continually burning into his skin and his chest and back area. The patient's eyes were bloodshot and had a gray appearance when we first opened the eyelids and started the irrigation. It had a crinkled appearance to it. It looked like a wadded up piece of saran wrap.
Somebody get that box for us.
There just wasn't much that could be done for him. The only thing we could do was continue to irrigate and save what was left. But I really didn't believe that he'd ever see it again.
I was frightened when I thought about what could possibly have happened. If he had panicked and the ball had exploded in that laboratory, we would have had a chain reaction that would have been tremendous. And it's no doubt that the children who were with him, as well as Mr. Chatilla, would have possibly lost their lives.
All I wanted to say was, thank you, Mr. Chatilla, for saving our lives, So everybody it was a really emotional time.
So many people come to every day.
Less than a year later, Sora Shatila's sight was almost returned to normal. His own quick thinking may have saved many lives, but it was the prompt action of his fellow teacher, Mary Young, that saved his eyesight.
The one thing I learned out of this accident is how many people come forward and how many people are so friendly and so helpful to me. I never estimated that I have so many friends who are inquisitive about my welfare and about my safety. That is the greatest pleasure.
It indeed takes a very special person to place the lives of others before your very own. And that's what happened on January 31st. Mr. Chatilla never once thought about himself.
Looks like
the only thing that he
little
thought about
kids are
was
reading,
the safety and welfare
newspaper
of his
article.
students and his colleagues. And for that, we will always be grateful.
Next.
I don't believe he was aware of the danger, and he probably was not aware that he was in such a vulnerable spot.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of Alien Tape free. You heard that right, free. Finally, there's Alien Tape, a revolutionary new tape that doesn't use adhesive, but strong enough to hold an incredible 17.5 pounds on most surfaces. You'll love Alien Tape.
Sources.
Mark and I went to medical school together 5 years ago.
Hoses and attack ablaze. They... There's a special bond among firefighters. But when they roll out the hoses and attack ablaze, they are all too aware that the beast they're battling is one that's not easily defeated. And even the precautions they take are sometimes not enough to prevent a tragedy.
Mark and I went through medical school together 5 years ago, which is when we met. He was my closest friend in the fire department here.
And he's a very aggressive firefighter. He wanted to get that fire out right now. And he was doing everything he could to do that.
I told him I would probably lose him because he was someplace he wasn't supposed to be. Just pushing it.
I don't believe he was aware of the danger, and he probably was not aware that he was in such a vulnerable spot.
At 4:06 a.m. on October 10th, 1990, a call came in to the Santa Ana Fire Department.
There's a fire in Bristol and First Street. Bristol and First? Yeah. What's running, sir? The tire. Okay, is it in a store? Yeah. Inside of the building? No, in the back. In the back? Another tire. One of the tires in the back to the rear of the store? Yeah. All right, we'll be right there.
Engine 3, 1 Charlie, 407.
A single engine from Station 3 including firefighter Dennis Atencio, was dispatched to put out what they believed was a small fire.
As we turned the corner, we could see flames a lot higher than that there building. The tires were leaning up against the building. The tires burned really hot, so it worked its way right into the building, and that's when the interior portion of the building caught on fire. The captain called for full assignment.
Units respond, District 126.
7 additional units from stations 3, 4, and 5 were immediately dispatched to the scene. Firefighter Lorenzo Abundis was among them.
It was a still morning. Right from First Street, right out of the station, you can see a real dark column of smoke going straight up, just like a chimney. And I looked at my captain, and he looked at me, and he said, "This is the big one."
In charge of the scene was Chief John Chambers.
We thought if we could make an interior attack, we could save records, computers, and possibly valuable information that could keep the people in business.
Firefighter Abundis cut the doors to gain entry.
When I cut the hole, there was a lot of smoke that came out. And then I could see inside the glowing.
Captain Bill McCoy was supervising one of the entry teams.
Anytime you go inside, you're in trouble because it's dangerous. But it's a great way to stop a fire if you can get to it in time. I knew it was a tire store, and I figured we might encounter a vehicle or two in there. I wasn't sure exactly what we'd see. And as it was, we'd see nothing. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was really boiling. My job was to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So I'd go in, and then I'd come out, and I'd look and see where the fire was. Because if it gets above you and it's really hot, you can have a building collapse. And after I went back in the third time, I could see we weren't going to get anywhere. Why endanger those guys' lives if you're not going to make any progress? So we pulled out.
All they could do now was try and keep the fire from spreading.
My breathing apparatus ran out of air, so I went to replace my air bottle. When I came back, I saw Mark Idy pulling a hose line, and I just went ahead and backed him up. So we were right up against the wall.
There was a huge facade around the whole outside of the building. And I was very leery of that right off the bat. I've seen them fall before. They're usually not as big. This was large, all stucco and wired frame. It was heavy. It was very heavy. I was watching my guys, and I don't want those guys underneath that thing, because if it falls, it's going to kill somebody. So I just grabbed them both and pulled back on them. I said, watch the facade, not the fire. But I had no idea there was anybody else underneath that thing, because I couldn't see because of the smoke. I was standing there watching the firemen battle the fire. And I looked toward my right, and all of a sudden, I saw Mark Idy and Dennis Atencio there. It sounded like an explosion. I could feel the wind from it when it hit the ground, lifting up the dust and some of the embers. And it was on fire. Dennis and Mark were gone. I didn't have time to put my breathing apparatus on, so I just went in there and lifted up the facade. I remember grabbing something which I thought was Dennis' attention.
I felt someone grab me and pull me back, and I was being pulled back, and the next thing I know, I'm out, and they pulled me out in time before I got sustained any burns. And I looked down to the south end, and I saw Abundis with, and I couldn't believe what I saw. He had the frame and the corner of that thing on his shoulder, and with his one free hand.
was pulling on Mark.
The smoke was gagging. I tried to hold my breath as much as I could. Mark was making a real muffled cry. It was very screechy, real, like a death cry. I remember I was very, very heavy. And I started yelling, I can't hold it any longer. And I was pulling. Paramedic Aiden McGuire was sent to treat the injured fireman.
It's bad news. The roots weigh a lot and they're usually burning when they drop. So, I mean, there's potential for somebody getting killed quite easily when the root comes down someday.
When paramedic McGuire arrived, he realized the victim was his close friend, Mark Ivey.
It's very difficult working on a friend, trying to maintain at least outwardly a calm appearance, even though inwardly I was kind of freaking out about the whole thing. When I looked inside his nostrils, they were looking very red, which is a sign that he may have got some hot gases. That could be a life-threatening condition, if not now, within the next couple of days, or it could lead to a permanent disability. It's something that you're very concerned about, his airway. He was in a lot of pain, especially from his burn on the back of the neck. We probably put a couple of gallons of water in between there and the hospital, just pouring it on, and then it would evaporate, it would stop burning, and we'd put it on. And just talking to him, you know, just trying to calm him down.
Deep breath. Let's get some oxygen in there. Just relax.
Mark was transported to UC Irvine Medical Center, where his friend, Nurse Tina Sorensen, happened to be on duty.
My heart speeded up a little because it was somebody that I knew, somebody that I knew well. It's not routine anymore. Whatever happens in that trauma room, whether it's a good outcome or a bad outcome, is intensified.
Hey, this is Mark Gotti, our firefighter.
We work daily with the paramedics and with the firemen. They see us each day, they bring us patients each day, we talk on the radio. It's really like one of your own team members has been hurt.
Essentially, the hair is not, so there's nothing in there.
Mark's wife, Leslie, a flight nurse, was on duty across from the hospital when paramedic McGuire came to tell her what had happened.
He was very solemn, so I was, that made it all the more worse. I didn't know what to expect. That was the hardest thing I did was walking to that trauma room because I just know what happens inside that room. He was sitting up, but he still had all the black soot all over his face. It looked like his skin was charred.
Mark had managed to escape with only a badly broken ankle and burns on his face, neck, back, and shoulder, thanks to Lorenzo Abundis.
If the wall had stayed on him, I would guarantee that he would have died from inhalation injury. He would have had so much hot smoke material coming into his lungs, his airways would have closed and he would not have been able to breathe.
Later that day, Lorenzo came to visit Mark at the hospital. I walked in there and he looked up at me and was real happy and a big smile on his face, and he just yelled out, "There's my hero!" It was great. It was a real good feeling to know that he made it through. 3 months later, Mark Ivey's injuries are almost healed.
Aww,
but the memories of that early morning are still
fireman and his
I
wife
feel
have
hot embers,
puppies.
hot coals starting to slide down my back. The flames got to my face. I could feel the skin on the left side of my face start to burn. And I realized that the superheated gases and the very hot air that these flames were giving off was going to kill me before I actually burned to death. And I had resigned myself that there wasn't any escaping this one. What Larry did was nothing short of a miracle. The son must have weighed many hundreds of pounds. But something happened to him when he saw that thing fall on me.
He's a hero as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how you can describe something like that. He's just, and I don't know, I'm really glad I was there. I have him to thank for that, for Mark's life.
Now Mark the firefight is working out in the
I got the
gym,
energy and the strength.
lifting
Just
weights,
knowing
dumbbells.
that there's somebody trapped there. There's two of my buddies
The other
trapped.
guys on the
Yes,
treadmill.
I risked my life to do what I did for Mark and Dennis, but they would do the same thing for me.
Lorenzo Bundes received a Special Heroism Award and the Fireman's Medal of Valor for having saved the lives of two of his fellow firefighters.
We're real tight. We're real close. We joke around a lot together at the station. We're off duty, we get together and we do things, and we're a close family. We all stick together, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
When a diet pill sells over 1 million bottles, it's a good start. Over 10 million bottles, it's time to take notice.
Or lipozine bottles. 82139.
Hey, on Rescue 911, a father.
Get yours today. To order, call 1-800-610-0906 or go to tagvisor.com. That's 1-800-610-0906 or order online at tagvisor.com.
A fresh twist on reality TV is here. The hottest series, the biggest reveals, and show-stopping drama. It's television with a twist.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911. High voltage horror.
When I came up to him, he wasn't breathing.
A rescuer gets the shock of his life.
I noticed that his socks were burned to his leg.
And paramedics work down to the wire.
I was worried that he was going to die. I kept telling him.
Then, an injured boy is stranded in the wilderness.
He told me he couldn't move.
Can his family get to him before he freezes?
The only thought that I had was, we've got to get over there quick.
On Rescue 911.
We never need each other more than when something terrible happens in the middle of nowhere. On July 20th, 1989, disaster struck on the edge of the Nevada highway, miles from the nearest town, and a man's life was in the hands of whoever happened to pass by.
Well, US 50 across this stretch is called the longest road in America. Sometimes you can drive 100 miles and maybe only see 10 vehicles. We have a lot of accidents on US 50 from people going to sleep, drifting off the side of the road, rolling over.
Around 8:30 p.m., a pickup truck with 3 people in it come off the road, rolled over once and slammed into the base of a 45-foot power pole, completely shearing off the top of the pole. Neva Worthington and her husband were on their way to Reno.
When they saw the smashed truck by the side of the road, they stopped to help.
When I got there, there was no way that I knew that he got able to lift with me. I was trying to check him over. He was thrashing around trying to get up. I really couldn't examine him very well because he was trying to get up and I didn't want to get up under the wire.
A passing motorist stopped to call 911.
Hi, I'm calling to report an injury accident 25 miles east of Dallas, Nevada on Highway 50. Okay, are you off the road or on the road? They're off the road. Pickup truck. It was a little over hit a telephone pole.
David and Susan Baker and their 4 children were on vacation, heading to California from their home in Texas.
We saw the truck and we both thought it was abandoned. When we saw the man lying there, we saw the other people trying to help him. David just stopped and asked, has anybody called?
They assumed Greg Blanchard had been hurt in the truck accident.
Okay, I believe there are 3 people injured. We did not stop to assess it. We turned right around and came back in an ambulance. Okay. Okay, hold on for a minute.
Local paramedics were dispatched immediately.
Injury 1050. Highway 50 east, 25 east of Dallas. Injury 1050. Ambulance requested.
He didn't even stop to think. You know, we didn't really even talk about it. He just turned around and went on back to the scene.
For David Baker, the choice was clear.
I've always had a fear of coming upon an accident and finding someone in an accident that's in real bad shape.
Kurt Stahl was also driving by on US 50 when he saw the accident scene and stopped to see if he could help.
He looked like he was in pretty bad shape. His nose was all mashed up.
Anybody else? Okay, just drive away still. I'll go see how these guys are.
He was afraid. He was yelling, I don't want to die. Don't let me die. I need to lay down. I explained to him that he was laying down. He kept trying to get up.
Not knowing exactly what was wrong with Greg, they tried to calm him so he wouldn't injure himself further while they waited for help to come.
He pulled off onto the side of the road and asked him if he knew any first aid and if he could help us, and he said, yeah, I know first aid.
Greg was trying to get up, he was fighting, and he was right under the wire, and I was afraid that he would get up and get at him. Dave Baker asked me how he was doing. I told him that his pulse was okay, his respirations were okay.
David's family watched from the car.
I was hoping that the ambulance would hurry up and get there, and David, maybe he could help this man and maybe he couldn't, but the children were worried. They were frightened. It scared them. Seeing somebody else injured. He said, is there anybody else? I said, yes, there's one in the truck. It happened so fast that I really didn't realize what had happened until he fell to the ground. You just watched someone you love be electrocuted and he may be dead.
When we continue.
That electricity has gone from this man's brain all the way out his feet.
My finances are...
You can use our account.
I pure missed.
Here's one we really need to reunite with her family. Pamela Mayfield was 6 years old when she was last seen on January 10, 1985 in Houston, Texas. Her photo has been age regressed to 39 years. If you have any information that could bring Pamela home, please call 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-56 878. Please help bring Pamela home.
Navy Officer Harold Clark and his friends had overheard a call about an injury accident. As CPR instructor, Harold immediately focused his attention on David.
When I came up to him, he wasn't breathing, and you could smell the burnt flesh. And the way he was laying, he wouldn't have started breathing on his own. His airway hadn't been cleared. But I went in to open up his airway and gave him 2 breaths, and he started breathing.
I was so relieved when I heard that he was still breathing. I got a rush of fear and a rush of relief all in about the span of 2 minutes, and it was very frightening.
Somebody said, we gotta get this power turned off. I just took off to make the 911 call.
Kurtz would be the 3rd call for help.
Highway 50, mile marker 46. A power line was struck in this accident. And a man in a rescue attempt that were trying to help these people accidentally stood up and hit his head on that thing and he got a shot. I mean, it burnt him bad. He's on the ground. Okay, down and way out there. He is down. He has a burn across the top of his head, 6 inches long. Okay, thank you so very much.
Once he came to, he wanted to get away. We tried to held him still, just keep him from hurting himself.
He looked like he had a cut in the top of his head, and from when I got down to his feet, I noticed that his socks were burned to his leg.
An estimated 20,000 volts of electricity had passed down David's body.
He said he can't see. He said, help me, I can't see, I can't see. We said things like, it's dark out here, David. That's why you can't see. It's dark out here. Just calm down.
The Nevada Highway Patrol arrived. The first official on the scene was Trooper Dan Luke.
How you doing here?
I heard the man screaming, he couldn't see, and he was delirious. They couldn't make him understand anything. I was worried that he was going to die at that time. I'd never seen anybody like that before.
From the nearest town of Fallon, Sheriff Bill Lawler headed to the scene.
I cautioned the units while they were to be careful of electricity. I got a call from dispatch that had talked to a local electrician who had monitored on the scanner, and he said, be careful because that electricity can jump about 3 feet out of that high voltage wires.
Barbara Frank and her partner were the first paramedics to arrive.
I hear them coming, hear them? Real close. Relax.
As triage officer, Barbara took charge of the medical treatment at the scene.
The first rule of triage is to always secure your scene for you and your personnel. And it wasn't a safe scene. We had a high tension line down that we had to cross back and forth under. That's not a good idea in any situation, but there's no way to stabilize that line. There's no other way to do it. You can't stand there with 3 hurt people looking at you, screaming for you to do something and say, I'm not crossing underneath that line until the line is no longer hot.
Hey, what's that clearance on the fire? Watch the fire.
It had been a half an hour since David was electrocuted.
I was crying. I remember crying, but it was so dry and windy out there that no tears would come.
And that electricity has gone from this man's brain all the way out his feet. It can do a lot of internal damage, both neurologically, structurally, to the bones, to the tissue. You don't know how much it cooked in between those 2 points of when it entrance and exit.
The downed lines were within a few feet of the ground.
When you got too close to the tension line, you could feel it. After I crossed into that line a few times, I didn't want to go back and forth anymore after that. Anyone could have been killed. Myself, my partner, any of the bystanders that we allowed onto the scene. Anyone that got too near that line.
The downed power lines were still hot, carrying 34,500 volts of electricity when Sheriff Lawler got to the scene. They continued to work under the lines until all the victims were stabilized and could be moved.
For some reason, the electricity didn't interfere with the electrical impulses that go through the heart. My main concern was he going to go into cardiac arrest again? Was he going to have a seizure from this?
Rescue workers and volunteers broke with normal procedure and common sense to risk their lives for Greg and David.
Just about the time we started loading, he went into a real flashback type thing. He kept screaming, somebody grab the wheel, somebody grab the wheel, we're gonna wreck. God, please help me, somebody help me.
It's a spooky thing to watch something like that happen, to not know if they're alive again. I honestly thought Dave Baker was dead until the ambulance got there. It could have been one of us very easily.
This call really showed what volunteering was all about. Both volunteering from the bystanders' point of views and just about what teamwork all together was about. And it was a call everyone should be proud of, including those people who stopped and rendered aid.
2 months later, David Baker is undergoing intensive physical therapy.
The whole body works off electricity, and because of being short-circuited, basically, it's been disconnected. Your muscles and everything have to learn where they belong, how to react. It's like a baby learning to roll over, how to move, if you want the arm to go up, what you have to do to make it go up. And it's really painful at first and hard. I just roll over would cause me to break out into a sweat.
I've been in the hospital for quite a while. Probably about 6 months or so. He said in a week, 2 or 3 weeks, he may be able to walk on crutches. I just asked that he would help my dad get better as soon as possible and they might not die.
Mentally, he's great. Physically, we don't know how much nervous system damage there is. I never would ever think that this would happen to me or my family. It's been sort of unreal. You feel like you're just going through the motions, it's not really happening to you. You just don't want to really think that it's happening to you. It's hard to describe.
Ray Gunshaw received skin grafts where he was burned by the electricity, but has otherwise recovered.
I was next to David for a few days, and him and I were together. He was in definite pain, I was in definite pain. We didn't talk to each other much. I think everybody had talked, so I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But David especially, because he's going through what I'm going through. He feels what I feel.
David's doctors expect that he'll be able to lead a normal life, but he may never be the same as he was before risking his life to help a stranger. The man who gave David artificial respiration under the wires understands the choice he made.
I think he did what he thought he had to do. Each man feels different things inside. Some people say, well, it's their problem, let them handle it. Some people don't feel it that way. I would hope that if I'm ever in a predicament where I need help, somebody would come and help me.
To me, when I see somebody that's hurt, needs help, I just was raised, you just can't turn them down. It really no matter what the cost and what. And even if you put yourself in a little bit of a danger, that you've got to put forth the effort to save someone.
Next.
It was getting dark, it was cold out, but I had to leave him, not knowing whether I would be able to find him again.
Some days are so hot, you feel like you're going to melt. And no matter what you do, you just can't cool yourself. Having to hold a tiny little fan is such a joke. And hosing yourself off just leaves you soaked. Introducing the Arctic Air Freedom, the amazing cordless air cooler that you wear. It gives you the freedom to stay cool and keep your hands free, so you can do what you need to. It's like having a portable air conditioner wherever you go. No matter how hot it gets, just put on a squirt off.
Feed your victim. Celebration would test their faith in miracles.
Because they brought her, as you covered, The Daily Crime, an all-new podcast from Vault Studios.
For Mary Jo Keller, the Thanksgiving holidays in 1988 were special because they brought her entire family together again. But when everyone gathered from around the country at the family ranch in Sandon, Idaho, they never imagined a holiday celebration would test their faith in miracles.
It was the first time that we had all been together in about 5 years. My mom and dad are divorced, and it was a really jubilant experience to have us all as a family again.
The family had decided to take advantage of being together by celebrating Christmas early. Late in the afternoon, Mary Jo's youngest brother, 16-year-old Will Barton, volunteered to go out and get a Christmas tree.
He was very, very athletic, and that was very important to him. And he was just starting to get into what life was all about.
Will drove up into the hills with his high school friend Matt Koppelman to look for the best tree to cut down.
I went out for wrestling, and he was also in wrestling, and he, became a good friend to me that way. There's a high tree that was that had a good top on it, and Will decided to go up and climb it and cut out the top, the first 7 feet or so, and it was probably about 35 feet up, maybe 40. But he was determined to go up this tree anyway.
It's easy to see the mistakes afterwards, because in the middle of November, they're slippery and they're brittle, and you've got more clothes on than you used to, and don't climb a tree.
Some branches break, and I looked up and I just saw him falling. He told me he couldn't move his arms and legs, and he couldn't feel anything. So I knew that it had to be a back or neck injury, and that I wasn't supposed to move him. But he then told me that he was having difficulties breathing, and I had to take his legs and swing him around so that he could breathe with more ease.
I can't help it.
Put my foot on me.
You're not really.
It was getting dark, it was cold out, but I had to leave him, not knowing whether I would be able to find him again.
When Matt came back to the house and started describing that he wasn't moving at all and just barely able to whisper, Julie right away said it sounds like a spinal injury.
Listen, okay, the board.
Will's sister, Julie Myers, was a registered nurse.
My biggest fear was if it is a spinal cord injury, it could swell and he could quit breathing. And the only thought that I had was, we've got to get over there quick.
Will's brother, John, also rushed to help.
The first thing that went through my head is, Will's gonna freeze to death if he's not dead already. It was just, if we can find him, we might be able to save him. If we can't, he's gone. Matt wasn't very familiar with the ranch, so, your heart just sinks and you're going, what do you mean? You think you know where is he? Well, he's over there. And you're just going, well, There's 25 miles over there that it could be.
My mom signed up for 8.
If you're
Yes.
the freezing wilderness for their wounded brother,
We didn't take time to realize how bad he was. We just knew we had to get him out of there.
then a 6th grade student gets a crash course in saving a life.
I was scared because I figured he might not live.
But can he make the grade? On Rescue 911.
Advocacy work for things like more affordable health care.
Is the freezing wilderness for their wounded brother.
We didn't take time to realize how bad he was. We just knew we had to get him out of there.
Then a 6th grade student gets a crash course in saving a life.
I was scared because I figured he might not live.
But can he make the grade? On Rescue 911.
It had been nearly 2 hours since 16-year-old Will Barton had fallen 40 feet from the top of the tree. Family members combed miles of the ranch, searching for the spot where he lay with no idea how injured he might be. But as darkness set in and temperatures plunged below freezing, his sister was losing hope that her youngest brother would still be alive when they found him.
Mom was just saying everything's gonna be fine, it's not gonna be that serious. And I tried to believe her, but I couldn't believe her because it just had that feeling. It's like time skips a beat, and when it resumes beating, your life's changed.
It was really dark outside. It was cold, probably 15 degrees below zero with the wind chill factor. But we didn't notice the cold.
We had that whole mountain where it could be, and we panned out, we started running, and were we in the right spot? Just the anxiety of not knowing was the worst.
We thought, well, maybe we could follow footprints, but there were footprints all over the mountain because they'd been traipsing back and forth trying to find the perfect tree.
When we continue.
The only sound you can hear are other people calling William's name, and I remember the loneliness thinking, what if we don't find him?
When I found out somebody purchased a 50,000. He diagnosed with.
The only sound you can hear are other people calling William's name, hoping for a sound, and I remember the loneliness thinking, what if we don't find him? I heard him from a little ways off, and I kind of stumbled right onto him.
He looked real white. His pulse was real slow. He was real cold. He looked really bad. I put my hands underneath his shoulders and put his head in between my arms. And I held onto his neck and head and shoulders while they moved him onto the board and straightened him out.
I can't run.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
How are we gonna get him out of here?
We all looked up the mountain and realized there was no way we were going to get him back up the mountain.
Will's family decided to carry him out a longer, more indirect route that would avoid the steepest slope.
We didn't take time to realize how bad he was. We just knew we had to get him out of there and do it as carefully as possible.
I'm going up that mountain trying to carry him like that. It wasn't more than 50 yards and everyone else were totally exhausted.
By the time they managed to get Will back to the house, more than 2 hours had passed since he fell.
I ran out to see how serious it was, and I could tell that there was terror in all their eyes. I just stepped out of the car and fell into Mom's arms and just started crying. Said, Mom, he's not okay.
When they got to the hospital, the family's physician, Dr. Boyd Simmons, was there to meet them.
He was completely paralyzed in all 4 extremities. We got an x-ray of his neck, and it showed a fracture and a dislocation of his neck.
He has a fracture.
It didn't appear from x-rays like there was an awful lot of room for his spinal cord to go down the spinal canal. And so I really expected the worst.
Will was placed in traction and airlifted 90 miles to a trauma center in Missoula, Montana. His father, Walt Barton, who had left the ranch 2 days before, drove for 12 hours through a blizzard to see his son at the hospital.
I can remember the hurt that I felt all the way to Missoula. In fact, I cried 90% of the time. I just kept saying to myself, why? To think that a fine young boy like that with all that potential, all of a sudden everything came to a screeching halt.
Neurosurgeon Henry Gary told them that surgery might be the only way to realign Will's spine. But because the procedure itself was risky, Dr. Gary wanted to wait 24 hours to see if traction alone would work.
The whole family decided, and anyone that even knew us, decided to fast and pray for William. And it started at 6 o'clock in the evening, and at 6:30, the breathing therapist came in to pump William's lungs up to make him work. At that point, something popped in his neck.
You okay? You alright?
It scared the breathing therapist to death.
Probably had enough for tonight.
The vertebrae had lined back up, and they did not have to do surgery.
Again, you can see the alignment is almost normal.
Even though the vertebrae had realigned, Will still had no feeling from the neck down. His prognosis for recovery was not good.
At that point, they diagnosed him as a quadriplegic. He would never walk again, and he would probably never feed himself again.
We have to turn every 45 minutes to keep the circulation going and keep getting bed sores.
I just remember being one of those tough Barton boys.
There was nothing Mary Barton could do to lift her son's spirits.
William really got depressed and he would just lay there, staring at the ceiling, and I asked him what was happening, and he said, I'm just practicing being a vegetable. What's happening? He said, if you love me, you do something really special for me. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, what do you want me to do? He said, just put a pillow over my face and take me out of my misery.
Let me know if you feel dizzy or uncomfortable, hot, sweaty.
Will began attending daily physical therapy.
Is he all right? He doesn't have a heartbeat.
What's happening? The one nurse was breathing in his lungs, and he started breathing again.
Will?
Are you okay, Will?
I remember the nurses rushing around me, panicking, trying to, they were trying to get the pulse, and I started to see a bright light and the most beautiful garden you've ever seen.
It's slow, Shelley.
That was the turning point in my whole recovery, because it was my choice to be here. I would have bad days after that, but I never wished I hadn't have made that choice. I'm glad I did.
His condition slowly improved, but doctors held out little hope that he'd ever walk again.
It was about late February.
He said, I feel really strange. What I want you to do is I want you to pull me up and hold me. He said, I want to stand up.
What do you want me to do now? Try to step back. Step back? Yeah, I think I can stand.
And all of a sudden I felt the weight of his body relaxing. And I felt him starting to take on some of the weight that he had. And before it was over with, he was standing there pretty much by himself.
Hey man, look at that. I'll stand.
By the following Christmas, Will Barton and his family had reason to celebrate.
I had to relearn to walk, but I was determined to work as hard as I could.
Sure you will. There you go.
It seemed a lot like being a baby again and having to relearn to use your muscles. And you fall down a lot and get scraped up, and you just carry on.
Walk really fast. So I don't care, Rick.
They tutored him, he came back, and he graduated with his high school class. There were over 5,000 people in that stadium. And Will walked down that aisle and received his diploma.
Good change, you guys.
He's worked hard. First one toe and then one finger.
I find it's mine, but it'll do.
And he is progressing. I know that he will get well.
William has been such an inspiration to the family from a standpoint of strength, from a standpoint of being able to accept, from a standpoint of seeming to just bring the family unit closer together. Before, I was very athletic, and the things of the world were, that's what mattered. After my accident, I was very appreciative of what I had. Just motion, getting up from one place and moving to another place. It's a really big thing. My family helped me a lot in my recovery, and I realized it's the family that matters the most.
Next.
I was just running really hard because I just was thinking the faster I get there, then the sooner I'll get help, and the more chance I'll have of living.
But on the morning of September 14th, coming up next on True Crime Network.
Rescue 911 most shocking on True Crime.
40-year-old Randy Corbett had been a teacher at Tracyton Elementary School for 18 years in Western Washington. During that time, he formed a pretty good idea of what kids were capable of doing. But on the morning of September 14th, 1992, Randy was surprised to discover that sometimes children can far exceed our expectations.
That's it, recess is over. Everybody back in class.
Among the students in Randy Corbett's new 6th grade class were Chris Sander and his best friend, 11-year-old Aaron Rankin.
When Mr. Corbett came in, he told us to sit down and to get out our math books.
Take out your homework assignment.
He looked just like he did all the other days.
Okay. Number 1, 764. Okay, we round that to the nearest 10. The answer is 760, right? Number 2, 495. Down to the nearest 10, 490. Okay, that was number 2.
His eyes rolled back and he just collapsed.
Stephen Lund didn't know what to do.
A lot of the kids were like, they're laughing and they were saying it's just a joke, it's just a joke, don't get worried, because he's just faking it. Aaron just checked to see if he was breathing and checked for a pulse, and then he just started doing CPR.
My dad's a paramedic, and my mom's a nurse. And my parents taught me to do CPR if someone doesn't have a pulse. I was scared because I figured he might not live.
I was just running really hard and I was sweating because I just was thinking the faster I get there, then the sooner he'll get help and the more chance I'll have of living.
Mr. Corbett's collapsed. In our classroom. He just fell over.
Teacher Ben Peterson heard the commotion from his classroom next door.
I saw him laying on his back. I immediately felt the pressure. I've got to do something because I thought of his 2 daughters and his wife.
Let's go into my classroom.
School principal Ann Laurie had taken a CPR class every year for the last 12 years.
When I ran into the classroom and realized that there was something awful and real happening, some of the old trainings kicked in.
2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, Randy. What?
And that was probably one of the most frightening things that I've ever done.
Is he breathing? Sure, no. 3.
I was very aware of the rhythm that we had established with the CPR to the point where I didn't even realize when Carrie had taken over for Ben.
Okay.
I was only hoping and praying that what we had done as a team was enough.
Within 6 minutes of Randy Corbett's collapse, rescue units with Kitsap County Fire District 15 arrived, including EMT Brian Dansky.
When we first pulled into the school, the first thing I noticed was the sign on the window that said Mr. Corbett. Instantly, that rang a bell that used to be my 6th grade teacher. I had no idea who it was actually that was down in the classroom until I moved around to his head to assist him in ventilations, and I saw that it was Mr. Corbett.
Come on, Andy.
I've done CPR on quite a few people, and you always want to save the person, but when you know the person, it's just that much extra that you want this person to survive.
Hey, still heat fib, we're charging. Everybody stand clear, clear docking. Okay, and check for pulse. No pulse.
The time the paramedics were working on Randy were the scariest and most frightening and most horrifying 17 minutes of my life.
Everybody stand clear, clear. Shocking.
I wanted the paramedics to be done, and I wanted the happy ending to be right then and there.
Still heat fib, we're gonna show on Randy. Everybody stand clear, shocking. Check for a pulse. Come on, Randy. We have a pulse. Okay, let's get a blood pressure on him.
Right after the fist shock, we got a rhythm back, and he started to breathe somewhat on his own.
You're up. We go, Randy. First in.
Randy was hospitalized for 7 days. The doctors determined that he suffers from an inherited condition which causes the electrical currents in his heart to malfunction and led to his cardiac arrest.
I had open heart surgery and had a defibrillator implanted in my chest. It sends an electrical impulse to my heart, so it's just like having a paramedic right at my side all the time with the 2 paddles. I don't look at it as something of fear. It's keeping me alive. So it's something to really be happy about.
Since the incident, Randy's wife, Sue, has learned how to do CPR.
He was lucky if this had to happen, that it happened at school. Aaron acted so quickly, and the other students and principal and the teachers did what they needed to do. I'm sure that saved his life.
During Randy's recovery, Aaron visited him and brought get well cards from the whole class. Thanks.
They told me that if I hadn't done CPR, he might not have lived. Before I thought, oh, it'll never happen to me. But now I know that it could happen to anyone.
Thanks for doing such a good job.
I was proud of myself and I was glad that I was there that day.
The American Heart Association and the school district honored Aaron for saving his teacher's life.
The fact that he reacted so quickly in getting oxygen to Randy's brain set the stage for a successful ending. We're going to have all our 6th grade students trained in CPR.
We're here to learn CPR. What I'm going to do is demonstrate the steps in initiating CPR, just like Aaron did on Mr. Corbin.
I believe that all children should be taught CPR all over the United States in school.
Shake and jump. Hey, you okay?
And if they're taught, there'll be a lot of lives saved.
6 weeks after his cardiac arrest, Randy Corbin was ready to return to his teaching job.
Hi.
Before it happened, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I do. I'm going to be a paramedic.
I wouldn't trade this class for any other class in the United States.
This is drive time, where you have a 99% chance of getting approved for a car, even if you don't have great credit. You may even qualify for $0 down.
Awesome, because my credit is little.
For more true stories on Rescue 911. For the smart way with Stretch and Fresh. And right now, tear one family apart.
All of us knew it was hopeless.
Bad.
I just knew that he'd been shot.
One careless shot
I was totally confident that the gun was empty.
threatens a young boy's life.
His lips were awful blue.
On Rescue 911. We begin on March 14th, 1991, as Maureen Johnson was spending a quiet evening with her family at their home in Detroit, Michigan.
Me, Leroy, and my 2 young kids were in the bedroom watching a little television. And I guess we fell asleep about 12. Joshua, which is my youngest child, we usually stick a bottle in the bed with him. And he wakes up like once a night. And he just reaches over, grab it, and everybody's fine. But this particular night, the bottle must have rolled over on the side of the bed, and he couldn't find the bottle. I looked to the ceiling and black smoke is just crawling. All I knew, we had to get out of here. So I grabbed the closest baby and I went to the hallway. Flames just shot out at me, so I went back to the bedroom. I got a cover. a tidal wave just about to swoosh down on me. That's how the fire was. The fire spit at me and had caught parts of my hair on fire. At this time, I thought Leroy was behind me with April. And then once I seen that Leroy and April was not behind me, the first things for me to do was go to the window and see why they hadn't came out. Leroy! 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 I could hear him moaning. And I'm like, oh my God, they not gonna come out.
When we continue,
All of us knew it was hopeless. We kept on pulling and pulling. That dog wasn't going anywhere.
Elvenar. Build your very own magical city in Elvenar.
Their work.
Plays it.
Now you spent so much time at home, maybe it's time to find a new one. Realtor Doc.
Baby boy. But her boyfriend, Leroy.
Let's see. This is security bar say BB gun.
When fire swept through her home in the
Blast.
middle of the night, Maureen Johnson
Security
managed to escape
bars
with baby
trap family
boy. But her
in fire.
boyfriend, Leroy,
BB
and her
gun
2-year-old daughter, April, were
accident.
still trapped somewhere inside the burning house.
Emergency center, what's the problem? Go shine your light. Somebody knocking next door, hollering my baby got burned up. So just send her. Okay, look, I'm gonna hold on. I'm already requesting the police. I'm gonna hold on. Can you see from your window if there's a fire at the house? Let me see what's okay.
What's wrong, Maureen? Maureen ran to her family's house down the street and got her uncle Arnold called. She was just devastated. She was on her mind. I mean, I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I couldn't get inside of it. I never heard anybody scream like that. Because it sounded like a death scream. That's what it sounded like. The report of the fire was relayed to a Detroit police unit on routine patrol less than a mile from the scene. And that dog wasn't going anywhere. It was loaded down. There was no way you in the hospital person could pull that off with their hands. Detroit firefighters immediately responded, but the nearest station was more than 5 miles away.
I didn't know where my baby was. All I knew, she was in that house and that house was burning. And I really, in my heart, had thought April and Leroy was gone.
There were a couple of neighbors, they was trying to help, and we kept on pulling and pulling. And we didn't know really what part of the room, whether they on the floor, whether they on the bed, whether they're lying, whether they're dead. All of us knew it was hopeless. Within 2 minutes, Officer Ernest Wilson and his partner arrived at the scene.
It was amazing that someone was in there, and the possibility of us getting someone out of there seemed very little, a little chance of it.
Officer William Baldwin looked for a way to get inside the house.
The front door was engulfed in flames at that time, so I went around to the side to see if I could get through the side door.
I thought it might be possible that someone would be on the bed. I don't know if it would be Leroy or April. So I just reached at the bed. I kept on reaching around it. Finally, I felt the sheet. Then I pulled it towards me. When I pulled the sheet, I noticed there was something heavy on the bed, so it had to be April. So I small. And I thought the baby would fall off the bed, so I had to be very careful. Then I felt her little legs. They felt her, so I'm like, I got her.
child felt dead to me. But from past experience, mouth to mouth was a thing that was next.
She was at the window, and I thought my baby was dead. I thought April was gone. Ain't no doubt. I knew she was gone.
Giving that child mouth to mouth was another feeling. Is this going to be in vain? Is it going to be worth doing? While I was giving it and asking the child, breathe for me, breathe for me.
Okay, this is the last episode of Rescue 911.
Lovely feeling to feel that
So
child.
there will be no
Never
more
felt anything
episodes of
as
Rescue
tremendous as that
911
seeing this child like and
until
brought
next
back to life.
weekend.
Didn't know how much longer we could hold out. The fires were starting to heat up. The fire was starting to grow a little bit closer.
Within minutes, firefighters arrived, led by Lieutenant Peter Tabay.
I knew right then we didn't have time to wait for the jaws of life or anything. I knew we had to get these bars off the window if we had any chance of getting the girl out of there.
Couldn't say nothing but thank you, and thank you to the man above.
Just start breathing a little. All right, that's about 5 minutes. Okay.
To see if this child was going to live was the next thing to think about.
Firefighter Cashin found his way into the bedroom where, under zero visibility, stumbled upon the adult male laying unconscious on the floor. When we first removed the victim, I didn't think that he was going to make it. He let a gas spout, and at that time I knew there was a possibility that he might pull through.
At Henry Ford Hospital, 2-year-old April was examined by emergency physician Russ Lambert.
April certainly suffered tremendous damage to her lungs. Her smoke inhalation was quite significant.
She's loaded. Let's suck that out. Well,
We certainly were unsure whether she'd make it or not.
April was transferred to ICU and put under the care of pediatrician Dr. Elizabeth Contreras.
Whenever I see a child that comes in, initially I'm angry. I'm angry that your life so full of hope and future can potentially be snuffed up in seconds or minutes.
I sat there for 13, 14 days with my baby in intensive care in a paralyzed state. And in my mind, I can't even tell nobody what was going through my mind. Because I don't know. Mommy's here. I really thought my baby was going to die. For days, I was out my mind. I mean, for days.
One of the good things that happens in treating children is their resilience. Children bounce back a lot quicker than most adults will ever. April suffered injury to her brain from lack of oxygen and from the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. My prognosis for her, although difficult to say at this point, still remains hopeful.
2 months have passed. April's recovery has been slow. She suffered some lung damage and partial blindness, but there's hope that both conditions will continue to improve.
The happiest moment for me was when Henry Ford Hospital told me my baby can go home. That was the happiest moment.
Now they were
And getting
swinging
her and
2-year-old
Getting
April
April
on
and
the
Brown was the
swing.
best thing I had ever hoped for.
Although Leroy also suffered some lung damage and partial blindness, he's thankful to have escaped with his life.
I really, truly commend all those that put forth a brilliant effort. I think they did a wonderful job in responding at the time that it took them to get there and everything. I'm going to put smoke alarms and security bars on my new house, but I would definitely make sure that these bars will be able to have a release pin to access to get out in case of an emergency or fire.
This experience taught me a lot. You only have one life to live, and you have to live it to the best that you know how. So I'm looking up, and from here on in, everything is going up to the sky for me and my kids.
Next.
Cheryl put Jared in my hands, and I looked down at him, and his lips were awful blue. Then I saw the entry hole right over his heart.
The Garcias are good at getting the most out of things.
I'll be
Fighting for it.
It's in
Tragedy often strikes when we least expect it. Late in the afternoon of September 12, 1989, in Rio Vista, California, Cheryl Murray and her children had returned home from a boating trip and were enjoying the long summer evening.
It was a Tuesday night, and Jared and the boys were outside riding their bikes. And Jared at the time was only 6 years old.
Across the way, 17-year-old Kevin Stewart was working in his backyard.
My dad had told me that I needed to clean out the backyard, so as I was weeding, I found my old BB gun. All in all, the gun could have been outside for a year. I cocked it and fired it, and it seemed that it was empty. I repeated that a few more times. And then when I knew it was empty, I went in the house, and I started off in the family room shooting flies. It doesn't take the BB, just the charge of air.
It looked like they had a pool table.
I went to the front of the house to look for more flies to shoot at, and I was totally confident that the gun was empty.
I heard the pop of the BB gun. I heard Jared gasp. I just knew that he'd been shot. He looked like he was scared. He just kind of laid there, kind of listless.
I didn't believe anybody would believe me when I told them that I was shooting flies in the air. So I hid the gun and tried to make it so that no one would know I did it. And all I was thinking was, what have I done?
Cheryl's calls for help brought neighbors to the scene, including Janae Tussey, who was studying to be a nurse.
Cheryl put Jared in my hands, and I looked down at him, and the first thing I realized is that his lips were awful blue. They were really blue.
Can you hear me, Jared? Can you hear me?
And when I pulled up his shirt, then I saw the hole, the entry hole, right over his heart. And it was pumping, it seemed like, at the same pace that his heart was beating. There was a little squirt of blood coming out.
They loaded Jared into a neighbor's car and rushed him to the nearest fire station less than 2 miles away.
Jared was starting to go into shock. He was losing a lot of blood. His pupils were dilating. His body was shaking.
Which was the one in the red?
Raphael. By talking about the Ninja Turtles, it gave me a chance to take his mind off of being shot. And I didn't want him to lose consciousness. That was the most important part
Your eyes open for me, okay, Jared?
Jared, you're doing good. Mommy's right here, okay?
Within 5 minutes, they arrived at the Rio Vista Fire Department.
I ran in with him and I started yelling, this child's been shot.
He's been shot. Okay.
We barged our way right into the living quarters.
Paramedics Sue Hurst immediately assessed Jared's injuries.
He was very pale. His skin was moist. He had a very small hole right above his left nipple on his chest.
What happened, you know?
I don't. Mom was just screaming that he's been shot.
They took a risk. They could have driven to the fire station and we could have been out on call. If the family had dialed 911, we would have had all the players there in a coordinated effort from the very beginning.
Jared, right, and I kept saying, Jared, you're going to be all right. I'm right here. It's okay. And then I'd turn around and I would just be hysterical. And I'm like, oh God, please don't take my baby. Please don't take my baby. I don't know how much mothers love their kids, but I think I love them too much.
How was dinner at the restaurant?
Roommate. But for some reason, Jared
Jared was admitted to North Bay Medical Center, where he
You
was
had
treated by emergency
fettuccine alfredo. Usually you have chicken parmesan.
There's air coming from the wound every time he breathes. With each breath, there was a little bubble of air, which indicated that whatever it was penetrated deep into his lung, and this air was leaking out of his lung.
I can hear you as well as the TV.
X-rays revealed that a small area of one of Jared's lungs had collapsed, and the BB pellet was still lodged inside his
How
body.
can you not hear the TV?
They said it looks like it went in right here and it ricocheted off of things and it's just sitting.
Are you guys in the car?
And we probably didn't have to remove it. Everything's gonna be okay. And so we were like really relieved.
Oh boy, you got out dinner late.
Cheryl spent the night at the hospital with her son.
He woke up early in the morning and it was still dark out.
Did Mark pay for dinner or did you guys pay?
And I felt his arm and his arm felt really cold.
Oh,
And I
okay.
knew that something
Yeah, because
wasn't
Mark
right.
lost the bet, so he
And
had
at that
to.
point, it was decided to do an angiogram. You can see that the flow of the dye comes through here and literally
Do
stops.
you have any
So we can normally
leftovers
see a
for the
vessel like
dog? The
this
dog
continuing
loves
down the arm and
leftovers.
spreading out all the smaller blood vessels to the muscle.
And he said, looks like it's lodged against the artery and we're gonna have to.
You got
remove it
fettuccine
because he
Alfredo
could risk
too?
losing his arm.
But the surgeon who performed the operation
Shrimp,
wasn't
what?
prepared for what he found.
And he was like,
Shrimp
I'm not gonna believe
Mediterranean.
this. And
Was
he,
it
he told
good?
us that it's just a miracle. He's never seen anything like it before in his life.
The BB had actually penetrated the chest through the lung into the left ventricle of the heart and was pumped out in the next
okay.
contraction of blood and just shot out into the artery.
I gotta
He
go.
was very
I'll talk
fortunate
to you tomorrow.
the BB
Bye.
didn't go straight up into the carotid
What?
where he might have had a stroke and died. Somebody was watching over him.
Yes, I'm
Jared was
there.
hospitalized for 7 days and released without any permanent injury. Kevin came forward the next day and admitted that he had accidentally
Why
shot
do
the
you
boy.
need a TV? What's
When I
wrong
finally
with
told
your
him that I
old
did do it,
TV?
I felt really relieved, like the pressure was lifted off me.
I've never ever met Kevin. I thought Kevin was nice.
Don't you already
I'm
have a
happy.
TV in your
There's no hard
kitchen?
feelings. I didn't want him to think I was some kind of mean person and would try to hurt someone intentionally like that.
No.
2 years later, Jared's older brother Brandon looks back on what happened.
He's a good guy. I love him a lot. And he told me he was full of life
Yeah.
and getting all the presents in the hospital.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be over $100 or over $200.
Took him a couple
I don't
months
know.
and broke him back in. People should just treat BB guns like they're a firearm. They need to realize that they're powerful. They
What, it would
penetrate,
be like
they kill.
13 inch
They
or
are a
something?
firearm. They are not a toy.
That's not a small TV, a 43
You
inch.
remember Rick, her neighbor?
Sure. He's the 76-year-old guy who still runs marathons, right?
Reading up.
Oh. Why do you need a TV for your kitchen cabinet? already watch TV from the island? Because you used to have a TV on your counter. Oh, so when you buy the TV for your house, you're not going to use the TV that's on your counter anymore. Mm. So what, are you going to look for TVs tomorrow? Oh, okay. I didn't know plans had changed. Oh, I was just watching Rescue 911. I don't know, no plans. Why? Yeah, that's true. It's not a pig pen, it's my condo. And it's not messy inside either. No. Yeah, right. Okay, bye. Okay, I'm going. Good night, YouTubers. This broadcast has been long enough, and all 8 Rescue 911 videos are on here. Peace out, YouTube.